Good morning, 5 o'clock here. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. And we begin this morning with a devastating crash of a commuter airplane and a Black Hawk helicopter. They collided in the skies over Washington, D.C. last night. Let's get the latest here with ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. The U.S. figure skating team confirms some of its members, coaches, and relatives were on board the American Airlines regional jet that crashed into the Potomac overnight in Washington, D.C. after colliding with an Army Black Hawk helicopter on a training mission.
The explosion sending what was left of both aircrafts plunging into the Potomac River. The water temperature life-threatening, with the river only just starting to thaw after being frozen for weeks. Experts say the runway the plane was approaching is rarely used and say the helicopter should not have been in the approaching area of an active runway.
ABC's Alex Perchet in D.C., where Police Chief John Donnelly says
the conditions out there are extremely rough for the responders. It's cold. They're dealing with relatively windy conditions.
Just before the collision, the pilot of the Army chopper confirmed to air traffic control it did see the regional jet. This is ABC News.
And CNN reports investigators will be looking at just that point, that the Black Hawk helicopter was asked to maintain visual separation from the airplane, but for some reason it did not comply with that clearance. We'll stay on top of any developments all throughout the morning. Now, other news of the day, Senate Republicans advancing an immigration enforcement bill that establishes a central immigration enforcement office in Tennessee. Channel 4's Courtney Allen takes a look at what that would mean.
The bill provides incentives for enforcing President Donald Trump's immigration policies here in Tennessee. Plus, it would make it a felony for local officials to vote to establish sanctuary cities in the state. And immigrants who are living here legally under this bill would be required to have a different license than the license that U.S. citizens have. The bill sponsor says that's so it's to make it easier to know who is allowed to vote. Only U.S. citizens have that right.
A final immigration vote in the House is set for today, along with the House and Senate votes on school vouchers. Market Numbers report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Here's Chuck Sievertson.
Wall Street slipped after the Federal Reserve decided to keep interest rates unchanged as expected at 4.3 percentage points, saying inflation remains somewhat elevated. The Fed had signaled in December that it expected fewer rate cuts this year. The Dow Jones dropped 137 points. The S&P fell 28, and the Nasdaq sank 101 points. Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick promises to get rid of his considerable business interests in 90 days to help avoid any conflicts of interest. The billionaire financier said in a Senate confirmation hearing that he decided he's made enough money in his life. Newly sworn-in Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has ordered the federal agency to reverse fuel economy standards that are used to control air pollution and address climate change. Taxes once again on everybody's mind until April 15th. The IRS says an electronic return will get you a refund in less than 21 days. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
And stock futures this morning pointing up. The Dow futures are up 181 points, NASDAQ futures plus 98, and the S&P futures gaining 20. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Looks like there's an accident in Crossville this morning. 40 the westbound lanes before Crossville exit 322 with the left lane blocked. Otherwise, looking pretty good so far this morning. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.507 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Welcome on into a Thursday, January 30th of 2025. Man, there is a lot of news to get to. Of course, we have this helicopter versus plane crash that happened in Washington, D.C. We're going to talk about that. You know, Joan Jones, of course, hailing from Washington, D.C. That's where she lived before here in Tennessee. So, Joan, you've been to Reagan International, I'm assuming many times.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're familiar with this airport. I want to play some audio real quick, but there's a number of things that are going on. Number one is, it took literally mere seconds for people to start politicizing this. And of course, blaming Donald Trump. So we're going to get into that because I'm going to debunk a lot of that crap that people are putting onto the socials. And so we'll get to all that. But I do kind of want to focus on exactly what happened. If you haven't seen the video, basically you've got this airplane, and it's a commercial airplane. So 64 people on board? And it is landing. And this Black Hawk helicopter just, I don't know any other way to explain this. The Black Hawk helicopter runs into the airplane, flies right into the airplane, and they both crash into the Potomac. And I have, if you follow me on X, at Dan Manda Show, I've gone ahead and posted the video on my X feed. Now, there's a lot here. And so this happened around 7:50 p.m. our time. And so the plane is flying. And the helicopter, the air traffic controller, literally told the helicopter to fly, I guess, behind the airplane, but it didn't. This is what it sounded like because a lot of questions are being asked. So that is the air traffic controller, and they're asking the helicopter if they can see the commercial airliner. And so that's the tower saying, Pat 2, do you have the CRJ in sight? If you didn't hear that, let me play it for you one more time. They're asking the helicopter pilot, the Black Hawk helicopter pilot, do you see the commercial aircraft? And they just, apparently I don't know if they responded or not. Then a few seconds later, you can hear in this audio the other air traffic controllers, because the mic was open, reacting to the crash as they saw it happen. Did you hear that? Did you hear them say, oh my gosh, and sort of like the surprise in their voices, the reaction as they saw this happen? So you can hear it. And so if you folks have seen the video, again, you can go see it on my X feed. It does look like the Black Hawk helicopter just flies right into the airplane. You have the air traffic control telling the helicopter or asking the helicopter, do you see the airplane? Do you have it in sight? It doesn't sound like there was a response. I heard Joan Fox News talking about how they may have been on different frequencies. So
yes. So what I'm hearing is that there are two different means of communication at the tower there in at Washington Reagan National. And one is for helicopters and one is for airplanes.
Yep.
And of course, it could be that the two sources of information didn't cross with each other.
But here's what I don't understand, is that if you're in a helicopter, you have radar. And you've got, obviously, windows. And so you can see if you're around other aircraft. You can see it on the radar. You should be communicating with the tower. And obviously, you are looking in front of you. And so if you're flying a helicopter, and I've never flown, obviously, a helicopter, or, I'm not a pilot. But, I mean, it would just stand to reason that if you're flying, you can see a big old airplane coming in your direction, and you could be on a collision course. That's number one. Number two, that if you know anything about flying, you know that behind an airplane, there is something called wake turbulence. Now, wake turbulence is like, when you're in a boat in the water, you look behind the boat, and the water is there's turbulence in the water because of the boat. Well, the same thing happens with aircraft, where if an aircraft is flying, then there's going to be a sort of a wake, if you will, behind it. The air is going to be turbulent. And so if you look this up and you do a little research, you'll see that Black Hawk helicopters, and obviously there's a lot of other factors, weather and so forth, but Black Hawk helicopters, by and large, they're supposed to be 3 to 4 miles behind an airplane because of that wake turbulence. The helicopter doesn't want to fly right into that turbulent air that's coming in behind that airplane. And so if you're I'm just, sort of trying to connect dots here. So if you're flying that helicopter, you don't want to be right behind that airplane. You want to maybe turn left or go down or go up or whatever, but you don't want to be right behind it. In other words, if you look at the video, that helicopter, it's just making a beeline for the airplane. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm the guy I'm very far from a conspiracy theorist. But I also look at things with an inquisitive mind. And when I watch that video, it does just look like that helicopter is not stopping. I mean, what did you see when you saw that video, Joan?
I saw the same. Now, here's another thought. First of all, there were questions about why there were just 3 people on the military helicopter. That apparently is normal. Is the pilot, the co-pilot, and one other person on the helicopter.
Yeah, they were training. It was a training exercise.
Right. So this one pilot that I follow on Twitter says that it appears to him that sometimes when you're flying at night in an urban area and you're low to the ground, there are so many lights from the city area that it's confusing. You may think that the lights on an airplane ahead of you are actually on the ground.
They call that light pollution.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they do. They call that light pollution.
Okay.
So
it may have been confusing for the pilot of the helicopter and didn't realize he was flying right into the plane.
I don't know.
Just another explanation.
Yep. Elon Musk tweeted out. What did Elon Musk tweet out? You were telling me about this earlier off the air. Elon Musk, he's got an inquisitive mind, like many people do. And what did he say, Joan?
He said, now I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you can't tell me that this wasn't intentional.
No dancing around that.
Yeah, no, he was pretty clear.
Here's what Donald Trump posted on his socials. The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airport for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. Exclamation point.
So, you know what? When you're in D.C., and anybody who comes from that region will tell you that the presence of the helicopters, They're always over the city.
Yep.
They're everywhere. They're all the time. They fly low, always flying low.
And it's very compact.
Yes. So there's a lot of areas. It's kind of confusing there. There's a lot of areas in D.C. where you can't fly. There's restricted airspace, of course, over the White House, over the Capitol building, the landmarks, the monuments all along the National Mall. All of that is restricted. So you can't fly in those areas. They have to fly essentially up the Potomac River. And that's the route that the airplane was taking. There's another thing here. At Reagan National Airport, and I'm sure that they do this at most airports, depending on the weather and where the winds are, they change the runways. You can land on runways and arrive on runways in different patterns based on the weather and the wind.
Yep.
So, there's just so many things to consider.
Lot. There is a lot to talk about. Weather, light pollution. This was a training. Who was behind who was flying the helicopter at the time? We don't know anything.
I find it interesting that I was listening to ABC News. ABC keeps saying that the plane collided with a helicopter, when in fact it was the helicopter that collided with the plane.
That helicopter collided. It looks to me like the helicopter collided with the plane.
There were no evasive measures. You didn't see that helicopter try to veer out of the way.
Nothing. If you're like in a car crash, usually somebody, turns.
At the very last second.
Yeah. And I saw somewhere, because I've been reading a lot about this, I saw somewhere where the plane did take some last second evasive maneuvers, but it was too late. You can't turn those planes on a dime. So
also that air, how you're seeing that video. That video that comes from a camera that's placed on the Kennedy Center, which is the entertainment venue. Yeah. Very close to the water. So, but it's not very close to where that happened. So that's why it looks a little fuzzy. It's grainy. You really can't see, and the angle's not great. I'm very sure that there are other cameras and other angles, because there's a lot of, at the National Harbor right there, there's a lot of tall buildings. There's, huge, there's an amusement area down at National Harbor. MGM Casino is down there. I'm very sure that there's other angles of cameras that we're going to be able to see soon.
And here's the other thing that I would wonder, because again, it's just, if you've seen the video, it looks strange. It looks bizarre. I'm just going to say, of the angles that I've seen, it looks, I'm with Elon Musk. I'm with Donald Trump. There's a lot of questions. I'm not flat out saying that it was intentional. I'm not saying that. I've just got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And so this has never happened before, where a Black Hawk helicopter has collided into a plane. It almost looks like, would you say that, and KGB, you can chime in here if you want, you saw it too, but it looks like the Black Hawk helicopter sort of T-boned, if you will, the plane. Do you know what I mean by that?
I know exactly what you mean. It did look like it hit again, it's so grainy, like what Joan said, but it looked like it hit the middle. Right in the where their passengers are, which is horrifying.
It is horrifying. And by the way, you saw the, we don't have time now, but who was on the plane? Apparently, there were some folks from the
U.S. skating
U.S. figure skaters.
Also,
Russians as well, right?
Also, a couple of Russian skaters. Yep.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah,
and the fact that there are so many people politicizing this, it was immediate, including people that I respect that have politicized this. So, we're going to keep you updated on this. Again, there's a lot of questions. If you want to see the video, you can. I've posted it on my social media, on my X, at Dan Mandis Show. Follow me there. It is 5:20. We forgot to do traffic. I'm going to assume, Joan, at this early hour that there is no traffic to speak of.
Really nothing. There's a crash in Crossville, 40 westbound before Crossville exit 322. That's it, really.
All right, very good. It is 5:20 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. So again, we are going to keep you updated on all things going on there in Washington, D.C. Going to talk about the politicization of all of this as well. There's a lot to cover this morning. Also, we're going to talk about the RFK confirmation hearings yesterday. Did you watch any of that, Joan?
Oh, yeah.
These people are nuts. Democrats
Yes.
are just nuts.
They're so vicious when they don't speak to people as if they're humans.
No, and that's a great point. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. 5:20, Joan Jones has the news at 5:30. Joan, what's coming up?
We'll have more on this crash of the airplane and the helicopter coming up. I'm just digging up more information for it, and we'll bring it all to you coming up here at 5:30.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
525, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, very quickly, because we don't have a ton of time to do this, but I did find this funny. So, Joan, you were watching the RFK Jr. Confirmation hearings. Did you see the whole thing with balloon hair Bernie? Do you know who balloon hair? Folks that are new, I call Bernie Sanders balloon hair Bernie because his hair is always like, going everywhere, like you've run a balloon over it.
Yeah.
And he starts screaming at RFK Jr. about these onesies that are anti-vax. I'm going to put that in air quotes. But listen to this.
You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies.
And they're onesies.
Yeah.
And it says, unvaxxed, unafraid, and no vax, no problem.
One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid.
Right.
Next one, and they're sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is no vax, no problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines.
Now realize this was, I believe, during the COVID era. That's number one. And number two, it's kind of a visual because Bernie's eyes are just bugging out.
When are they not bugging out? Is the question.
His hair is flying and staticky, and his eyes are bugging out.
Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that you're going to have your organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
Yeah, that was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with leadership.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
Put that on a shirt.
I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, but it is kind of funny. And you can hear RFK Jr. start to laugh.
Yeah, that was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with leadership.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell the organization you founded not to continue selling that product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But by the way, I'm sure the organization will very much thank Bernie Sanders because I'm reasonably certain those onesies are now sold out.
Absolutely.
The whole thing and between Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, talk about eyes bugging out. Oh, my
goodness. She was out of control.
Do they think that this is actually good for their cause? That would be my question. Do they believe that acting like just insane, I don't even know.
The pitch of her voice.
It's like screeching.
Oh, yes.
And I don't believe that that's sexist. Some people, every time I mention the tone of some of these, specifically, I'm sorry, but some of these women, they reach a pitch and a tone that just, it is like nails on a chalkboard. But, Bernie isn't much better. So I don't know if these Democrats believe that this is actually good for them. Browbeating RFK Jr. And by the way, other people would call this bullying, and I'll tell you why coming up next. It is Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 5:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. And the top story this morning, of course, is the midair collision of a Black Hawk helicopter and a commuter plane in Washington, D.C. We get more now from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Brian Clark. There's still no word on whether anybody survived last night's American Airlines regional jet crash. 60 passengers, 4 crew members were on board. The plane was coming into land at Reagan National Airport when it collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter and crashed into the Potomac River. A massive rescue operation was underway. This woman saw it from her window.
I look out the window and you see the reflection of the light from the rescue helicopters on the water.
ABC Sherry Preston says we're learning more about the moments leading up to the crash.
On live ATC, you can hear the control tower at Reagan National Airport ask the Black Hawk helicopter if it sees the passenger plane. ABC News consultant, retired Marine pilot Steve Ganyard.
The helicopter said that they saw the regional jet. They acknowledged visual separation, meaning that the responsibility to stay clear of the regional jet was there.
Brian Clark, ABC News.
And we are learning that 12 bodies have been recovered from the water, and we'll keep up to date on this all throughout the morning. We'll bring you the latest. It has been 4 months since Hurricane Helene devastated parts of eastern Tennessee. Well, now state lawmakers approved a federal bill, a funding bill, a $450 million relief package, and it's being sent to Governor Bill Lee for his signature now. That special session should wrap up today when the House takes up the immigration bill and school vouchers. That'll happen at 9:30 this morning. The Senate votes on vouchers, too. If it passes, that'll be at 11 o'clock this morning. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather just ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Yeah, we're looking at no big delays on the major roadways heading into Nashville this morning. We do have an accident. This is in Crossville. It's the 40 westbound lanes before Crossville exit 322 with the left lane blocked there. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.536, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Dan Mandis here, along with Joan Jones in the newsroom. KGB, Jeff Malinoff is producing. Hope everyone's doing well. You guys want to get this over with? Oh, really? Okay.
What is it, Dan?
Malinoff has put on an eye patch. Do you have one too, Joan?
Oh, not
you
just
can't see me.
Not just me.
We're in solidarity with you, Dan.
You guys have put on eye patches. So for those, see, that's funny. Actually, I got to go to the YouTube page. I've got to see Joan with an eye patch.
It's over my glasses. I wasn't as sophisticated with you. And
so for those of you who don't know, and I think most of you do, I had cataract surgery yesterday, and so I had to come in.
The picture you sent us yesterday, by the way,
yeah,
that
I love
Amy
that.
took a picture of you.
Yeah.
So for those that are wondering, Amy, his wife, took a picture of him on the couch, and he's just holding his eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
No eye patch, just holding his eye.
I'm holding my eye. Now, okay, so this is very funny because I'm looking at the YouTube feed, which is horrifying for me, but both of you guys wearing eye patches in solidarity. So I go into so many stories to tell. Number one, if they tell you don't drink before a surgery or a procedure, for the love of all that is you know what, don't do it.
Did you drink water or something?
That's like
I'm always drinking my tea.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
And so
you were in anesthesia.
And yeah.
You went
so,
under. Oh, wow.
Jeez,
You got lucky.
Dan.
So I go in and I go to the bathroom like a couple of different times. And they ask me the question because Amy says, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I keep having to go to the bathroom. And she says, "Well, you weren't supposed to drink after, whatever time." I don't pay attention to that stuff. And I should have.
Oh, yeah, you should have. Like,
Goodness.
So leading up to the surgery, I'm horrified because I think that they're going to put me under and I'm going to pee all over myself. That was my worry. And luckily I didn't. And everything turned out fine. Dr. Horn and his staff over there at Vision for Life, they were great. So, but my eyesight today is horrifying. I can't see anything, and I'm struggling with the eye patch.
I'm already getting a headache with this eye patch.
Yeah,
I don't know how you're doing
trying
it.
to look out of one eye. Wow.
Well, and here's the reason why, and you folks on the radio, just bear with me, but if you're watching on WTN TV, you can see it. So I've got my eye patch, and then I've got my glasses over my eye patch.
Yeah.
The reason I have the eye patch is because my left eye is not ready for prime time yet. It is still hazy, and I just can't really see anything.
And besides that, it looks terrible. He did a little show and tell.
Oh, he showed you?
Yeah,
he never
he showed me.
I don't want to see it. No.
So
it's very red.
It's very red and hazy. It looks like I'm stoned, but only in one eye. So
very specific. Brand of weed.
So anyway, and then I've got my glasses on over so that I can see out of my right eye. It's like my eyesight for the next week is going to be very schizophrenic. So there's that. The surgery itself, though. You ever had surgery where they've put you under?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I've only had it where they numb me.
So they put like 15 to 20 drops in my left eye. And then they needed me to be out enough with the anesthesia so that I would be okay. But I needed to listen to orders, look up, look down, look sideways. It was such a trip. Because the only thing I remember is like 3, and you people that have done this, let me know on the super text line if this was your experience. 3 floating cotton balls in my left eye is the only thing I remember about that surgery. It was this, and I woke up and it's like, wait, is it done? I was scared beyond. You two yesterday, before the surgery, do you two remember what you did to me? KGB, who I love you, KGB. But
I know where you're going with
he's like, yeah, a friend of mine had this done. They take this instrument and they scrape your cornea
Not a friend
or
of mine.
whatever
That
it
happened
is.
to me.
That happened
that's
to
not,
him.
That's not a friend of mine. That was
Okay.
me.
And so you guys did not help in the least. You had me all worried. And in reality, it was actually fine. Like, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, the good news is you were asleep for it. I think the stories we told were that, my mom had the injections in her eye and she was awake for it. And so was KGB,
I
right?
was wide awake and I remember squirming and they go, "Are you okay?" Of course I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I could see a scalpel in my eyeball.
Right.
So you got put to sleep and that's a blessing.
Yeah, you're so lucky.
I wasn't put to actual, like I was sort of slumbering. But
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was one of those lights, like a what do they call it?
Yeah, it was a very light.
But it went by fast for you because you were so out of it.
Yes, it did. It did.
Mine was 40 minutes of scraping.
That's pretty. That's pretty awful. So anyway, I do have the eye patch on. I did for you folks. I did Uber to work today.
People in YouTube chat were like, "Did he drive here?" And I had to make sure.
No,
no, he did not.
It's funny. I drove up and I'm always the first one here, and there were no cars in the parking lot. So I come in the doors and here's Dan at his desk. I said, "What are you doing? Like, how'd you get here?"
Yeah,
you
I
Ubered.
Ubered.
It was very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the deal. I could have driven. I could have driven here. But I thought, you know what? If somebody hits me, like I could get into an accident without it being my fault.
Yeah.
But I'm not supposed to be on the road. So I'm going to spend, I kid you not, about $200 in Uber today.
Oh.
Because I've got to go from, I had to come home to work to Dr. Horn's office, and then Dr. Horn's office all the way back home.
And I bet your wife is like, "You're not driving." She was adamant about that, right?
She take your keys away?
Yeah.
Like
she did not take my keys away. No.
Yeah.
I actually.
You take the keys. She's like, "That's your fault." That's
No, because when you're married, it's like, okay, so if you screw up, you're screwing things up for the whole family.
Yeah.
So I said that it was going to be a game day decision. And this morning I woke up and I thought, no, I'm not going to do it. And I was pretty much, but here's the thing. I'm sitting on the couch. No, I'm sitting in my chair, my dad chair. And I take off the eye patch and I put my hand over my right eye, which is still my good eye. And I take off the eye patch. For the first time since I'm 16 years old, even though it's hazy, I can see the TV clear as day. That's how I know that this surgery is life-changing, and it's not part of a commercial. I'm just telling you that because with my eyesight was so bad that I'm probably going to have to wear readers, but I'll be able to, watch TV and see far away. I'll probably still have to wear readers, but I've got my hand over my right eye, and I can see the TV from way over there for the first time in ever without glasses. So I'm excited for, the second time around. And, we'll see how it goes. But I remember the only thing I remember about the surgery was those 3 little cotton balls that were floating around.
How long do you have the eye patch for? Do they tell you how long?
I've got to wear the eye patch for a couple of days now.
P.S. We're in solidarity with you in the moment. I'm not doing this for long.
Yeah, like after this segment, I'm taking mine off.
Yeah, no.
I'm getting a headache.
You have my permission.
Is that right?
Oh, your permission.
And think about how I feel. Because this is...
yeah, it's rough.
Jim says, is it National Hug a Pirate Day? I'm pretty sure...
He would stab us with his sword if we got
He's not a hugger.
Yeah.
I saw KGB come in.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, hold on. Did you tell Joan my joke?
No.
Oh,
I threw down a joke to KGB. He's walking in, and I'm like... I'm purposely looking like Bernie Sanders, who is looking at a onesie with vax stuff on there.
Yeah.
I said, KGB, have you seen a parrot flying around? I lost my parrot. Pirates. parrots.
That's not how you worded it.
What did I say?
Was
like,
it funny when he did it the first time?
Clearly not.
So he looked panicked. So I'm like, oh no, what's wrong? Because again, if you panic during radio, that's never good. But he goes in and he goes, have you seen a bird around here? And then I immediately, it took me a second. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to do it, isn't he? He's like, my parrot. And I just stone-faced him.
Stone-faced me. You've been taking lessons from Chris Hand.
No,
on how to be stone-faced.
That was bad. I just was like,
whatever.
It was 4 a.m. I'm like, I am too tired for this.
Fine, whatever. By the way, so a couple of things. Number one, my audio up?
Yes.
We were talking earlier about Elizabeth Warren as they're going after RFK Jr.
You have said you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look.
So anyway,
that's when I turned it off. By the way,
not only is she screeching, but she's also got like the angry eyebrows. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But why do they do this? Like, first of all, they're being accused of bullying RFK because he's at a disadvantage physically. He doesn't have the voice
Yes.
to be able to fight this. And so you've got, screeching Elizabeth Warren, and she, no, I'm not. It's like, good Lord, woman. Anyway, and then, he's just... I thought that he showed incredible restraint.
Yeah. I still feel bad about his voice. That's got to be torture. Like his vocal cords continuing to vibrate like that, and having to argue with someone like that probably puts more strain on his voice even more. So he's going through basically torture and having to listen to Elizabeth Warren at the same time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
can you imagine if it was flip-flopped and the other way around, and it was the Republicans that were opposing RFK Jr.? The Democrats would accuse him of being ableist.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they sure would.
They would say, "Oh, how dare you? He's not able to speak, and you're being terrible to somebody who has a disability."
Yeah, I don't know why the Democrats continuously try to behave in this way, because they don't look reasonable. They don't, and quite frankly, they don't look sane. And so when they are screaming and screeching and doing this. And I do understand Republicans, they do this too, right? I mean, I'm assuming that they have the same kind of passion, but this just seems like belittling. That's the difference. It seems like belittling, but I've always said that these confirmation hearings, everybody gets on their soapbox. So now you've got, and I've got more audio to play. It's going to be a very busy morning. You've got John Fetterman out there actually saying that he felt like it didn't go well for RFK Jr. because they are trying to paint him as anti-vax. But he has come out and he said, I'm not taking away anybody's vaccine. What he wants, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, but what he has actually said is he wants to have more information on the vaccines and their side effects or impacts on children and Americans, among many other things. That's what he wants to do. And he's been right about a lot of things. He was right about, and I don't want to get on my own soapbox, but RFK Jr., he was right about red dye causing cancer. He was right about the COVID vaccines and how those COVID vaccines would have negative impacts as well. He's been correct about a lot of things. And so they want to paint him as this rabid anti-vaxxer, which, you know what? He might be a rabid anti-vaxxer, but that doesn't mean that he can unilaterally take away people's vaccines. It means that what he wants is he wants to make sure that the pharmaceutical companies are held accountable for these vaccines and the fact that we need to know as much as we possibly can about these vaccines as we're putting them into our children's bodies. That's all that he's saying. And so for Elizabeth Warren and Balloon Hair Bernie and all of these other peoples, you know what I'd love to see? Maybe somebody can look this up. Now I'm all mad. How much does Elizabeth Warren make from the pharmaceutical companies? I saw that Marsha Blackburn, our own senator, was number 9 on the list of how much people, senators or politicians were making off of the pharmaceutical companies. Now, just so you know, I don't automatically say that that is a major red flag. I mean, if they're not doing anything illegal, whatever. But if you are if you are just rapidly and ferociously doing everything you can to protect vaccines and to protect big pharma, well, then I want to know how much the pharmaceutical companies are giving to your reelection campaigns, because I think that it might just be a little coinkydink that you are passionately defending the vaccines and the pharmaceutical companies when you are getting an exorbitant amount from the vaccine companies and the pharmaceutical companies. I'm just asking questions. That's what I'm doing. So do you think he's going to get confirmed, Joan?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you think? Thank you for paying attention. Totally kidding. I know you've got breaking news.
I am hard at work.
Do you think he's going to get confirmed?
I do. I think the hardest person that they're going to have getting across the finish line is going to be Tulsi Gabbard.
I agree.
And she's coming up today.
She is coming up today.
Along with Kash Patel.
Mm-hmm.
So today is going to TV
How
watching.
Many times do you think they're going to say you're a Russian asset or whatever complained that whatever Hillary Clinton lied about to her when she destroyed Kamala Harris in that debate?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting.
Oh, it's going to be a very interesting day watching the TV for this. You know where I'll be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
maybe,
I know.
Maybe Booker will have an I am Spartacus moment again.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't that be fun?
Cory Booker?
Remember when he said, I am this is my closest I'll have to an I am Spartacus moment? What a loser.
He's an idiot. You know what? He needs to go cry in a corner. It is 5:22, because he cries a lot. It is 5:22 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. I'm being castigated by my friend Erin, because she sends me all kinds of show prep and stuff.
Yeah.
She says, dude, I sent you the Elizabeth Warren stuff days ago. I know, but I didn't
pay any attention to you, Erin. It happens.
Listen, I don't always remember everything. I try to, but sometimes stuff just comes up in conversation. I would be willing to bet, though, that she makes a lot of money off of the pharmaceutical companies. And you know what? If I had more time, I would actually look it up right now. However, I don't. Coming up, I will probably maybe when we get back, I will talk about how much Elizabeth Warren makes from the pharmaceutical companies, Bernie Sanders as well, because I do believe that inquiring minds want to know. The Super Text line again, 615-737-9986. It is 5:53. Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news?
Yeah, we're taking a look at that the collision of a jet, a passenger jet, and a helicopter in Washington, D.C. We're learning that there were figure skaters from the U.S. and from Russia on board that plane. We've got the latest from ABC News coming up here at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:58? Is that the time, 5:58?
Yes, you are correct this time.
Because I shanked the... Okay, look, I can't see anything. This is like the one day that I can be Sir Shanks a lot, and you got to just cut me some slack.
Well, until you have the eye patch off, we have
That's
to give you some
exactly
slack.
right. So I'm going to make some mistakes. Apparently I said it was, 5:22 and not 5:52 or something like that?
Yeah.
So whatever. Anyway, it is 5:58. Elizabeth Warren, we're talking about why she is so passionately defending Big Pharma. She made $822,000 in the 2019-2020 election cycle from the pharmaceutical industry. Now, that has not, just in all fairness, because you know that I do like to be fair, in all fairness, she has gone after Big Pharma a time or two. So, I mean, whatever. All I'm saying that if the Democrats believe that they are doing themselves a favor by behaving the way that they are against RFK Jr. and basically telling lies about him, well, then they're not making a lot of fans. And clearly, they have not learned anything from the election that we just had in 2024. All right, coming up, the politicization of what happened in Washington, D.C., that helicopter versus plane crash, horrible politicization coming from the left. We're going to talk about that right after the news at 6, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning now, 6 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. 40 degrees and some parts of the Nashville area already seeing some of the rain. It is set to be a rainy day today. We've got those details coming up along with traffic in just a couple of minutes. Rescuers have now recovered 12 bodies from the icy waters of the Potomac River after the collision of an airplane and a helicopter last night. Let's get the latest here from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston.
I look out the window and you see the reflection of the light from the rescue helicopters on the water.
That woman lives in Arlington, Virginia, not far from where an Army Black Hawk helicopter and a passenger jet that had started its flight in Wichita, Kansas, collided overnight. 300 rescue crew members are on the scene. So is ABC's Whit Johnson.
We know that collision happened as an American Airlines flight was making its approach for landing, then hitting that Black Hawk helicopter. 60 passengers, 4 crew members were on board the plane. We know that 3 Army soldiers were on board that helicopter. So far, officials say there is no word of any survivors, and they are recovering victims.
Among those on that flight, members of the U.S. figure skating team who had competed in the national championships in Wichita last weekend. The NTSB is investigating the cause of the collision. This is ABC News.
And in fact, we do have an update here. More than 30 bodies have now been recovered from the waters. That investigation continues. The search and rescue continues. Rescuers, they're getting the advantage now of having sunlight having dawned over the area. Now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirming an investigation already underway. President Trump posting on Truth Social last night, quote, "It was a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented." We'll stay on top of this all morning long. Some other news this morning. There is at least one Republican state senator who voted against the illegal immigration bill of the special session yesterday. Todd Gardenhire of Chattanooga took to the floor. He criticized the amendment to make it a crime for an elected official to vote to create a sanctuary city.
We're going to tell an elected official, forget the issue. The issue is not important to me here. The issue is we're telling an elected official, you can't cast a vote. That, to me, is not part of being a republic.
Now, that bill did pass, as did Hurricane Helene relief. Market numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management and online at beaconcm.com. Here's Jim Ryan.
Calling inflation somewhat elevated and the job market solid, the Federal Reserve is leaving interest rates right where they are. That's despite demands from President Trump for a reduction. The Fed cut interest rates 3 times last year. On Wednesday, all three major stock averages lost at least a little ground. The Dow Jones slipped 137 points to close at 44,713. Continued losses for chipmaker NVIDIA dragged the Nasdaq Composite and the S&P lower by about 0.5%. Tesla profits were up a bit in the last quarter, but still short of Wall Street's expectations. Net income for the carmaker was up 3% to $2.6 billion. Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk is pinning his hopes of future growth on two areas, AI and robotics.
And we've got stock futures on the plus side this morning. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Just that problem in Crossville this morning on 40, the westbound lanes at the Crossville exit 322. That is a mess this morning because of an accident in that area. Otherwise, we're looking at, it looks like things are running pretty well heading into Nashville. It is about to start raining in some areas, though, so maybe you want to schedule a few extra minutes into the commute. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.607 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you very much for joining us, along with KGB. Jeff Malinoff, Dan Mandis here. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Of course, the top story here in Nashville and across the country is the Black Hawk helicopter that, I don't know, are we using the term, Joan, what are we using? Are we using the term collided with? As far as what happened?
I think so. We're saying mid-air collision. So
mid-air collision, okay. Yeah. So there's so many different angles here, and I'm going to try to get through all of them. Number one, if you haven't seen the video, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Dan Mandis, and a lot of other people are watching this video, looking at this video, and there's a lot of questions. Because, and you can follow me on X at Dan Manda Show, again, where I posted that video. But the Black Hawk helicopter, if you look at it, it's like the helicopter, it never veers off course. To put it in terms you might understand if you can't see the video, it looks like the Black Hawk helicopter T-boned the plane. Never stopped, never veered course, nothing. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that it was intentional. A lot of other people are specifically saying that. I'm not going to go that far. But what I am going to say is that there's a lot of questions. Now, earlier in the broadcast, I was telling you that the tower actually asked the helicopter pilot, "Do you see the airplane?" Said it not once, but I think twice. But do you see the airplane? No response. Instead, it just, again, made a beeline for the plane. And one of the things that the air traffic controller basically said was, as the air traffic controller sees the airplane and the helicopter basically on a collision course, the air traffic controller tells the Black Hawk helicopter pilot that this was a training flight, by the way, to get behind the airplane. But again, the pilot for the helicopter just doesn't veer off course. It's like he either doesn't even see the airplane or something more nefarious. Now, a couple of things. Number one is, earlier I said that these helicopters have navigation systems, have radar. Some people have said, one guy said he used to fly these Black Hawk helicopters. He said, no, they don't have radar systems. Other people, of course, this is my life, have said that they do. I don't know. I've never flown one. I've never flown in one. But that's number one. But number two is that you obviously have your line of sight. Number three, part of the conversation here is clearly becoming political. Before all of the bodies are recovered from the Potomac, people are making this about politics. Now, I've often said that good journalists are destroying their careers because of their Trump derangement syndrome. And so I'm going to tell you that Phil Williams from Channel 5, a guy who I immensely respect, tweeted this out moments after not moments after, but, after the crash. He says, and it was a link to an article, President Trump offered unprecedented buyouts to all federal employees at a time when studies show the FAA does not have enough air traffic controllers to keep us safe. More people will likely die. So to me, what Phil is saying there from Channel 5 is that he's like blaming Donald Trump for this. And so there's a lot of people, including our own Matt Murphy, that engaged with Phil on this. And he ultimately, I believe that he deleted that tweet and he framed it another way. But I mean, the libs of TikTok have picked up on that tweet, and others have picked up on that tweet as well. And I'm just going to tell you that was a regretful tweet, because it is, in my opinion, politicizing a tragedy. Number two, Phil also tweeted this out, this article. A lot of people are tweeting this out, trying to blame Donald Trump. And so this is making the rounds. It is like a memo. The House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, the headline, Trump's dangerous freeze of air traffic control hiring. And they're saying that Trump has basically said, you know what? We're not going to hire any more air traffic controllers. That's what the accusation is. Well, clearly, and if you follow me on X, I said this, and I tweeted at Phil. I said, no, public safety, people that work in public safety, they're not included in that. The hiring freeze does not apply to positions related to safety. That is part of the executive order. Yet people are repeating and reposting this lie over and over and over again on the socials. And so for me, it's a little frustrating because, you know, a lot of the people that are throwing this out there, including Phil, I'm a fan of his. And so my worry is that I don't want him to fall into the same category as so many other journalists out there that have destroyed their credibility because of their Trump derangement syndrome. And I fear with Phil, and I mean this with all the respect that I have in the world for his incredibly storied journalistic career, because he has had an amazing career. I don't hate Phil. I think he does great work. I've had him on the show. And by the way, when I had him on the show, do you know how much hate mail I got from folks because I had him on the show? Because there's a lot of people that believe that he is a hack. I don't believe that he's a hack. But I think he's had a great career, but I'm worried about him. I'm just going to tell you that he's done incredible work, but something, at least to me, seems amiss. Like he is going down that very sad and dangerous road of Trump derangement syndrome. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. But that just, it kind of seems like that's where he's going. Other people on this station have been saying this for a long time. And all I'm saying is that we got to think before we post. That's what I'm going to say. We got to think before we post. That's number one. Number two is, if you want to try to blame Donald Trump for this, first of all, with the unprecedented buyouts to all federal employees at a time when studies showed the FAA does not have enough air traffic controllers to keep us safe, Phil Williams saying more people will die. You got to realize that we do have the ability. We have thousands of openings. So that is a legitimate question. Is, okay, so is it smart to offer these air traffic controllers, all federal employees, a buyout? Now, obviously, that can be rescinded. Obviously, we have in the military and so forth people that can cover if you have just a whole bunch of air traffic controllers that decide to walk. But you also got to remember what's going on, because if you want to politicize it, we can politicize this all day long. Because if you want to go down the road of politicizing this tragedy, I would say to anybody who is posting these kinds of things, we can talk about the DEI that is going on within the FAA under not only Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, but going back to Barack Obama. We'll do that coming up next. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. .616, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. As far as your weather today, going to be a high of 58, and I'm not sure if it's raining outside just yet, but rain is expected. And appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So, if the folks on the left want to politicize this, by the way, other people are saying that Donald Trump fired the head of the FAA. Also not true. Mike Whitaker actually quit when Donald Trump was sworn into office. So you got all these people on the left who are just, they're making horrendous mistakes. Some people ought to know better. Now, again, if you want to politicize this, we most certainly can. Back in 2023, attorneys general from 11 states implored the Biden administration to stop using DEI as a basis for hiring. You see, people on the left want to politicize this. I could do it all day long. Biden administration, as you know, not necessarily about hiring the best person. It's about diversity, equity, and inclusion. In other words, if you're a white male, don't bother to apply. In a letter sent to FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker, the attorneys general outlined their concerns, 11 of them. Outline their concerns with the administration's recent hiring practices and priorities. Rather than relying on candidates' experience, education, and qualifications to set them apart, the FAA's 5-year strategic plan seeks to diversify its workforce and hire candidates who reflect the demographics of the U.S. labor force, putting the safety of more than 2.9 million airline passengers in jeopardy. New York Times did a whole story on that. They say, unfortunately, the Biden FAA under your administration appears to prioritize virtue signaling diversity efforts over aviation expertise. And this calls into question the agency's commitment to safety. The Attorneys General wrote, the FAA must return to prioritizing safety over diversity and virtue signaling. The FAA should once again hire based on merit so that the only qualified aviation experts take care of America's air travelers. So I can politicize this all day long. I don't want to. I don't know if this was pilot error. I don't know if this was something far more sinister. I don't know if this was an air traffic controller error. I don't know. But as much as people are trying to politicize this, I can do it just as easily and say that part of this could be all of the quest for diversity, equity, and inclusion in Joe Biden's FAA. Do you really think I would say to people like Phil Williams, do you really think that, what are we, eight days or so, Joe Biden, or I should say Donald Trump in office, and all of a sudden the air traffic controllers have gone to crap so much that it's Donald Trump being sworn into office and the actions that he has done that caused this horrific plane crash, this collision, this midair collision? Really, is that what you think? Now, in fairness to Phil, he deleted that tweet and put up another one and explained that some people interpreted his post as blaming Donald Trump, and he stated that that was not his intention. But that's what I mean. When you are inflicted with such hostility towards conservatives and Donald Trump, you make mistakes. And I don't want one of Nashville's best investigative reporters to destroy, frankly, his career by doing that. I don't. Because I have the utmost respect for Phil. I know a lot of you don't. Some of my fellow hosts on this station have a lot of issues with him. But he put it on social media. Here's another headline. FAA launches recruitment campaign for workers with severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and physical issues to hit woke DEI targets. I mean, it goes, folks, it goes on and on and on. So yeah, I'm telling you, both sides can politicize this horrific tragedy. I don't know what happened. Neither do you. Neither does Phil Williams. And until we have an investigation, until we know more information, people should not politicize this. Because it is just incredibly sad. Something happened. We don't know what happened. The investigation does continue. We will continue to cover it for you right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 621 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan.
We'll bring you the latest on that crash this morning as well from ABC News and the release of some hostages. This is not being covered quite as much this morning, but there were 8 hostages released from Gaza captivity, from Hamas captivity this morning. We've got details on that coming up as well at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. 622, Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mattis here. My vision, of course, as you know, has been getting worse for years, and I knew that I needed to make a change. Yesterday was day one. If you're watching me on Super Talk TV, you know that, yes, I do indeed have my eye patch over my left eye. I went in for my procedure yesterday. Dr. Horn did a great job, and I was really nervous. I'm just going to tell you that I was really nervous going into this, as a lot of people are. I had cataracts. And so the thought of somebody just going in there and, you know, taking out one part of my eye and inserting another piece, it made me really nervous. But Dr. Horn said, you're going to be fine. He went through me. He met with me for like 45 minutes. And that's not because I'm some highfalutin radio personality, which I'm not. He does that for every single patient. And that's why Dr. Horn has been selected by by a lot of folks as the top ophthalmologist here in Nashville. I knew that I had to take the leap. I knew that I had to get my eyesight corrected. And so for Dr. Horn, he does do a great job. He is, of course, at Vision for Life. Their reviews are incredible, with many people sharing life-changing stories about their procedures. Dr. Horn has been selected by his peers as one of the best physicians, one of the best eye surgeons, and one of the top 250 premier cataract surgeons in America. And most recently, he was voted Nashville's best ophthalmologist. After learning all of this and discussing lens replacement with Dr. Horn, I did take the leap that did begin yesterday. And stay tuned. I'll be sharing my vision correction journey with you every step of the way. Call them if you want to do the same thing. Again, it is life-changing. 615-436-2020, 615-436-2020. You can always find them online, visionforlife.com. .627, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Dan Mandis here, and make 2025 the year that you get active again. Listen, if you've been sidelined with chronic back, neck, and knee pain, check out my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville and Dr. Kevin Mitchell. I've been a client for over 10 years, and I've never felt better. I arrived in Tennessee over a decade ago, and I went through spinal decompression therapy for my chronic back pain, and it did really help me a lot. And every once in a while, I need an adjustment. Dr. Mitch does fix me right up. And right now, a great deal. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is offering the Big 47 offer in honor of our 47th President of the United States, 47% off of spinal decompression therapy. So call them, 615-246-5009. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. That phone number again, 615-246-5009. At the Wellness Institute of Nashville, they utilize the latest high-tech equipment in their state-of-the-art facility to provide effective non-surgical solutions. 615-246-5009. I put my seal of approval on that deal, 47% off. Find them online, painisbad.com. .629 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Boy, am I getting attacked.
Why are they attacking you, Dan?
Because I said something nice about Phil Williams. I really didn't. I mean, if you listen to that entire monologue that I did on Phil's post.
It's not that you said anything nice. You were just.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's the devil incarnate.
Right.
Incarnate. Geez, Louise, people. No, I'm just saying I feel like Phil. You know, I'm not going to say that he's a partisan hack. I'm not going to go down that road yet. It's kind of getting close, though. No, I'm saying, like, all right, I don't want to do this now. I can't do this now. Coming up, you know, the whole thing about he's doing this whole thing on, white nationalists in Nashville or in Tennessee, which is all fine, well, and good. But you know what I'd like him to do if I've said this 1,000 times now, I would really actually like to know how many Tren de Aragua gang members there are in the city of Nashville or Middle Tennessee or the state of Tennessee. That's really what I want to know. And there's some of that in the news today, as a matter of fact. We'll talk about that. So I'm not going to go down the road of calling him a partisan hack, but all I'm saying is that I'm afraid that he is going to destroy what's left of his reputation if he continues to go down this TDS road, this Trump derangement syndrome road, based on what we've seen last night with some of these posts on social media. And I say that as a guy who, again, I like a lot of the work that he's done over the past many, many, many years here in Nashville. 6:30. By the way, Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, is coming up next on Super Talk 99.7.
Good morning to you. It's now 6:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We look like we have 42 degrees here, just overcast at this point, but there is some rain already moving into the area. We've got the full forecast coming up. More bodies have been pulled from the Potomac River this morning. The Potomac River, at least 30 bodies, as rescuers continue searching for any potential survivors after that midair collision of an American Airlines regional jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. That happened last night just before 9 o'clock. More than 30 bodies have been pulled there from the river. The sun is up now. It'll make the work, that difficult work of searching for any possible survivors of that crash, a little bit easier. ABC's Martha Raddatz spoke with a Black Hawk pilot who says that flying in that area on a dark night can certainly be tough.
It's just a very, very difficult thing to do. To fly a helicopter at night, you have to be aware all the time. And with those lights, the kind of lights you would see as you go into the city, he said sometimes it is difficult to distinguish between what it is you want to see and perhaps the lights of the city.
Now, several members of the figure skating community were on board that American Airlines jet from Wichita, Kansas. 2 world champion Russian figure skaters were also on board.
Russian media reporting that among the victims were 2 former world figure skating champions, Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Nemov. The Kremlin expressing condolences, with spokesman Dmitry Peskov calling it bad news from Washington, adding there were other of our fellow citizens there. Authorities are still working to determine the full number of casualties. Inez de la Cuetera, ABC News. At the foreign desk.
And a vigil in Wichita is planned for noontime today. The sounds from Gaza this morning. That is as a terrorist organization, Hamas has released IDF soldier Agam Berger. She had been held for 482 days as a hostage. 7 others were released as well, including 4 Thai nationals. Now, one of the Israelis released today is 80 years old. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. Next, I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. Dan Mandis here, and want to tell you about my friends at Stoltzco. You need a pole barn in your life, and my friends at Stoltzco, they can help you out. They are the premier pole barn builders here in the state of Tennessee. Now, you know that putting up a pole barn from Stoltzco, it could increase the value of your land big time. You can use it as a garage, an event space, an equestrian building. You can just live in it. The thing is, pole barns from Stoltzco, they are flexible and built really well. And they can also plan ahead and build your retirement home. Now, a lot of folks in the city, they use these, we call them barn dominiums, these pole barns that you can live in, these barn dominiums. People know that pole barns that you can live in them. You can use these as a getaway country home. So call Stoltzco and tell them that Dan told you to reach out. 615-622-5992. 615-622-5992. You can also find them on Instagram and Facebook or at their website, STOLTZCO, Stoltzco.com.
.24 westbound lanes, an accident this morning at Hickory Hollow Parkway, exit 60, and that is blocking. It appears to be blocking the right lane. The left lanes are open this morning, perhaps as many as 3 of those lanes. Also in Clarksville, the eastbound side of 24, an accident there at exit 8 for Rossview Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.637 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Weather today, rain, and a high of 58. Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Cameron, always great to have you on. So, of course, special session. Today is a very big day, but let's talk about yesterday first, because you folks, I've spoken to Governor Lee about this. I talked to Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson about this. It's a very big day with the special session. Now, the protests yesterday, you have people that literally had to be carried out and screaming and all of that. How long was that disruption? Because you see it on the news and people are going nuts about this. How disruptive was it? And are these the same people that are doing this day in and day out?
They are. They're the ones last night when we're in session. They before we gavel in and after we gavel in, it's the same 3. They were up there leading the chants for people outside and inside the chamber. And then in the committee room, it's the same three. They're all Justin Jones's people. I think he pays them to come down there. And they disrupt. And the problem with the committee is even the highway patrol came in before they were removed and said, hey, we just need y'all to quiet down if you can. You know, you need to be here to watch and observe. You're not here to be a participant. And they told THP no. And THP said, well, if you do it again, we're going to have to take you out. And they resisted. So they had multiple chants, multiple warnings from Chairman Todd, warnings from Sergeant of Arms, and a warning from Highway Patrol. They just don't care. They want the news to look like they're being carried out. You know, unfortunately, they want to look like they're up in Congress and that they're doing something. But we're not going to, in Congress, they're not going to put up with it, and we're not going to put up with it either.
All right, fair enough. Moving on to stuff that really matters. These protesters were complaining about Governor Lee's plans to support Trump's immigration policies, which seems to me all makes sense. First, I'd like to talk to you about this new driver's license that differentiates between legal resident immigrants and U.S. citizens. Tell folks why that's important, why the folks that are here that are immigrants, they need to have different driver's licenses.
Yeah, one of the main reasons is for voting. And when we found out, if you remember, Secretary of State had to send out a lot of letters during the election about asking if they were here as U.S. citizens or have, the U.S. citizenship, and because there's no way to verify them at the polls. So what the driver's license will help do at the polls is if they come in and try to vote, it will easily be distinguished who is a citizen and legally to vote and those who are not. It's more of a protection of the Tennesseans' voting rights and those people who are voting, and making sure that we have fair elections and those who are supposed to vote can vote and those who are not cannot.
Love it. Makes all the sense in the world. The Central Immigration Enforcement Office is another thing that Governor Lee wants to do. Where will that fall in state government? Any idea who might be in charge of that and how impactful will that be? Just talk a little bit about the Central Immigration Enforcement Office.
Yeah, I feel like it will be an independent person because the problem in state government and other governments is you have silos. And so when the Trump administration comes in, it may have to talk to 3 or 4 different departments, which becomes very difficult to me, avenues to have to communicate. And so this individual would be the one who is in direct contact with the federal government to be seamless communication. And then they will have the ability to talk to all the departments and help lead it. And so it's more of an effort to streamline it, to help the Trump administration, but also to help us be able to meet the needs that President Trump needs for Tennessee to do to help him clean up our illegal immigrants in America who are committing crimes and figure out a solution on that and get them to, I saw Secretary Hegseth on Fox News the other night and get those criminals to Guantanamo Bay in a lot of instances.
Yeah, that was news that I'm going to cover, but part of what the president wants to do is he wants to open up Gitmo to a lot of these, to house a lot of these bad guys. And I mean, you've got people on the left that are, screaming because Gitmo to them, it represents something that it, in my opinion, doesn't represent. We'll talk torture and all those kinds of things, but I think that's a great idea. Do we know, Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, do we know how many illegal aliens we have in this state and how many are criminals and bad guys? I know that Trende, Aragua, they are represented in every single city in Tennessee. So can you give us a scope of just how bad the problem is here?
We don't have an overall number. There may be a way to get how many people have committed crimes that are illegals in the state, because that would be documented. But a lot of times if they come in and they are passing through or stopping or doing something, it's very hard to get a number. So I don't think we have an actual number of that, but we probably would have a better number, which I don't have on me, of if there's any illegals here in the state of Tennessee who have committed crimes.
One of the parts of this bill that Governor Lee wants to pass, and you guys are talking about, will criminalize any local officials at the county or city level who vote for any policy considered a sanctuary measure. Some people are saying this is unconstitutional. Have you thought about, number one, how would you enforce that, and what would those penalties be? Some people are saying this is onerous. The state legislature sort of telling local city politicians and representatives and so forth at the county and city level what to do. Are you getting any pushback from that, from those folks that do say that is unconstitutional?
only progressive socialists. But, look, I mean, at the end of the day, we have state laws too. And so, what this does is tell the elected officials they can't do something. And then on top of it, hopefully whenever I'm able to pass this year, the bill that holds all the cities and counties accountable for violating state law or state constitution or doing other things, then we'll withhold their sales tax dollars. And so I think these work together. But at the end of the day, the state constitution gives the state the authority to have oversight over all the local governments. The Democrats don't like that because in the big cities where they have all the wokeness and all the progressiveness, they want to challenge it. They want to become the LA of Tennessee. And the General Assembly is not going to allow that to happen.
It is insane. I mean, I guess my question would be, are the two Justins and Gloria Johnson, are they giving you any kind of pushback on these anti-illegal immigration, anti-Trende Aragua measures that you folks on the conservative side are trying to put forth?
Well, of course there are. I think one of those individuals was on the immigration committee who had the protesters with him that are his protesters that sit in there and disrupt all the time. So, yeah, I mean, that's what they're going to do. But, at the end of the day, we're going to be strong and we're going to fight for Tennesseans and we're going to make sure that we're supporting President Trump.
645, Nashville's Morning News. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, joining us. Mr. Speaker, I've got a couple more questions for you. Got to check the roads, though, on WTN. All right, very good. 645. Weather today, a high of around 58 degrees, rain off and on as well. Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, is joining us. Appreciate your time. Moving to the Education Freedom Act. By the way, votes today, right? And in both the House and the Senate on the immigration bill and also the Education Freedom Act?
Yes, both votes should take place before lunch today, so this morning.
President Trump endorsed it. He and Governor Lee seem to have a good relationship these days. People are still asking the same questions about this legislation. How will this impact the rural communities? And so I guess my question is, because we've all talked about this thing to death, but are they on board now at this point? And with the final vote being today, do you feel like you have the votes?
No, I feel like we do have the votes. Look, at the end of the day, the school systems, the school boards, the teacher unions, they're never going to be for competition against them. I mean, that's just a fact. So trying to say that those school boards or those school systems are going to say, we want this, you know it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter what you put in it. They're never going to agree with it because they just don't want competition. Now, to answer your question, in rural areas, I mean, look, rural citizens are on board with it. There's been polls done all across the state of Tennessee, whether it's statewide polls, state Senate polls, congressional polls, state House polls, and they all show the same thing. Republicans, MAGA Republicans, independents, and even some Democrats want to be able to have an opportunity to make the best choice for their child to determine what school they go to. They don't think you should be defined by where your zip code is, and they would like to use their tax dollars, which is their money, if they like to. They like to have the opportunity. Now, for rural areas and other school systems across the state, we put a floor in that will not decrease funding on them, so they can't say we're defunding schools, even though we put in $3.5 billion of state money over the last 15 years to fund K through 12. The interesting thing is these school systems need to be held accountable because if you look at the student population in Tennessee since 2018 till today, it's flat. They've increased teachers by 3%, but administrative people have been increased by 16%. What these school systems are doing are like these nonprofits. They want to put people in the bureaucracy and administration and the management to run all these school systems, eat up all that money, and not get it to the classrooms. We're going to start holding them accountable. When we get this passed today, the next step is holding them accountable for the excessive number of people they have in management instead of hiring teachers and putting money in the classroom.
On another front, Speaker Sexton, there's been some discussion from some of the folks that I know in the state legislature about you folks investigating the decisions leading up to the shooting at Antioch High School last week. I mean, there's talk about the metal detectors. Why were they not installed or why were they taken out and so forth? Is that a possibility? And any thoughts on somehow trying to remove Adrian Battle as the head of Metro Schools? I understand it's not, I don't believe anyway, that it's within your purview. But do you have any thoughts on an investigation into the events leading up to the shooting?
Well, first, I don't think law enforcement's done with the investigation, so we'll see what that says. I think that will have enough. Look, in these cases, how is that child in a high school instead of in an alternative school? When you look at the history of that person, they were currently on probation. They had a meeting with their probationer officer that morning. They threatened another student with a box cutter knife. More disciplinary in the past. And they still had that individual at a normal high school. And that's the problem that parents have, is parents, there's no transparency for the parents. There's a bill here in the General Assembly that would say parents would get 24 hours notice after a threat was made on a school system. And the school systems are fighting against it because they don't want to tell the parents how many threats are made and how many students are making these crazy allegations and crazy things out there. They don't want to give the notice because they don't want to scare the parents off. Why? Because they don't want them to leave. With the school systems, it's all about the money. It's not about, unfortunately, it's not about the students. It's not about the students academically, and it appears sometimes it's not about the students' safety because that school had metal detectors in it. They got removed because they were going off too much or malfunctioning, they said. Supposedly, we'll find out what that means. And then, when we passed the bill about arming teachers, the school, Davidson County was one of the first schools that said, we're not going to do this.
Yeah, and there's the battle over SROs as well.
Yeah, and so, look, at the end of the day, this all ties back into choice. And look at what happened in Memphis with how they did their superintendent down there. And this happens all over the state. It's not just defined to the urban areas. That's where it gets all the news. But parents need to be informed if there are threats, so that they know what's going on, so that there's transparency, not having the school systems trying to limit the knowledge that goes out to the public. And if the parents aren't happy, regardless of your income, you should have an opportunity to take your child and go somewhere else.
All right, Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, always appreciate having you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we'll talk to you again soon. Have a great rest of week and weekend. It is 6:50. Again, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan, what's coming up?
Well, we have just learned that in D.C. they're switching now from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. That tells you just about everything you need to know. That update is coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. 6:50 here on WTN. Why am I giving so many time checks? Do you know why it is?
Because of the patch on your eye?
That's what it is. It is the patch on my eye.
Blame that for everything.
You folks have no idea how out of water I feel, like a fish out of water, because I've only got one eye today. So, and apparently when you only have one eye, you give multiple. Joan, go back and listen to the tape.
Okay.
I gave 4 time checks in 1 minute time. I said it is 6:50 like 4 times.
Wow.
So I apologize for that. It's 6:51 now on Super Talk 99.7.
Yeah, but what time is it now?
I'm not going to tell you. If you don't know by now, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, thank you, Joan. Thank you for the well wishes, by the way. A lot of folks wishing me well wishes on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986. Dan Mandis here for USS. Now, it is raining. I don't know if it's raining yet, but it is going to rain here in Middle Tennessee. You always have to be cognizant. You always have to look for that water, that moisture in your basement, in your crawl space. That could mean that you've got a water leak. You know, the tiniest of cracks in your basement with the rain like we always get, sometimes the snow that we get, that could end up in your home and cause all kinds of issues. Heck, if your pipes burst, that could be a disaster. We're talking about mold, wood rot, and, of course, the need for structural repair. Now, if you want to stay ahead of water damage, call my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. They've got over 30 years of experience in basement and crawl space waterproofing, basement wall stabilization, and foundation repair. USS inspections, they are absolutely free, and they're not going to sell you any unnecessary repairs. They are simply here to help you. We guarantee our best. Call USS at 615-499. I should say 615-488-7855. 615-488-7855. Online, USSTN.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here on Nashville's Morning News. For people watching, you'll love this, Joan. For people watching the Super Text line, they keep seeing me, for whatever reason, having one eye closed, because of my eye patch.
Yeah.
Apparently, my depth perception is off because I've run into the microphone now twice.
Oh.
So if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you're watching me just run into the mic. I'm like a drunken sailor. And oh, my Lord. That is no offense to sailors. By the way, a request from the Super Text line.
Yeah.
Dan, will you please just once say shiver me timbers? There you have it.
I
Shiver me
love it.
I don't even know what shiver me timbers means.
I don't think anybody does. It's just funny.
You know what? I'll grok it and find out.
Yeah.
By
there
the way,
you go.
I absolutely love Donald Trump opening Gitmo. Going to talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Got a mess to tell you about on 24, the westbound lanes this morning. There's some debris in the road. The left lane is the only lane that is open at Bell Road, exit 59. And they're saying at the traffic center that it's stop-and-go traffic from Waldron Road, exit 64, up to that point. And then involved in that crash, there's also another crash this morning. Looks like it's a garbage truck. Careful as you're traveling, and you may need some extra time as you're heading out to work this morning as well. We'll detail more of that coming up. We are hearing that there may not be any survivors of the midair collision between an American Airlines airplane and a U.S. military Black Hawk helicopter. DC's chief of fire and EMS, John Donnelly, is saying he is not expecting there to be any survivors. And they have just switched from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. The latest now from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. A source tells ABC that the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. right now is a gruesome scene with a large number of bodies recovered from the water following last night's midair collision between an Army Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines regional jet.
American Eagle Flight 5342 originated in Wichita 2.5 hours before the crash. It was newly introduced service.
We just celebrated 1 year of that direct flight.
Lily Wu is the mayor of Wichita.
This is truly devastating, something we never expected.
The plane, a Canadair regional jet, is thought to have had 64 people, including 4 crew members on board. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
The NTSB is on the scene. Tom Howder is a former investigator.
Early on like this, there's a lot of rumor, a lot of people out there saying things. We need more facts, and that we don't have right yet.
A news conference being held this morning in Washington. This is ABC News.
And there will be a vigil held in Wichita, Kansas this morning. Make that around midday today. Other news of the day: Senate confirmation hearings for top jobs in the Trump administration continue. ABC's Rachel Scott has a preview of today's.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is back for a second date. Also, we will see confirmation hearings for Tulsi Gabbard. She is President Donald Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. She is expected to face some tough questions about her travels to Syria to meet with Bashar al-Assad. Also, Kash Patel, Trump's nominee for FBI director, will come before senators, too. He's expected to be pressed on his promise to go after Trump's political enemies.
And word this morning that Nissan is cutting back even further, now cutting shifts at 3 U.S. factories, including Smyrna and Deckard. Nissan is offering buyouts for those workers, although it's not saying how many workers it's hoping will take that offer. The company is cutting 1 of 2 shifts at the production line for its Rogue sports utility vehicle in Smyrna starting in April. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management online at beaconcm.com. We've got the Dow futures minus 41, NASDAQ futures up 107, S&P futures are gaining 16. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. Next, I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Okay, it's the westbound lanes of 24 this morning in Rural Hill. There's debris in the roadway at exit 59, and it's stop-and-go traffic from 64 up to 59. Although also there's a crash in the right lane, the right exit lane. Looks like it's a garbage truck involved in that crash as well. And by the way, when you get to that crash, the debris in the roadway at exit 59, only the left lane is open to traffic. That's causing a big delay this morning. There's a crash on the eastbound side of 24 this morning in South Nashville. That's right before Murfreesboro Pike exit 52. And then a crash as well on Mount View Road in Rural Hill at Murfreesboro Pike. And watch it up for a crash in Bordeaux, Ashland City Highway at Briley Parkway. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.707 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. Thank you for listening to Nashville's Morning News, along with KGB, Jeff Malinoff, Joan Jones as well. For you people watching on Super Talk TV, yes, I do have the eye patch on today, and people are having a lot of fun with that because I'm starting my cataract surgery, and so over my left eye, and I'm having a hard time today. Reading, my depth perception is a little off. But it's all fine, well, and good, because that's like any other day. So somebody said to me, just say shiver me timbers once. Now, Joan and KGB, can you believe that shiver me timbers, and then I'm going to get into content, shiver me timbers actually kind of pertains to what I do. I looked it up.
Oh.
Do you know what shiver me timbers actually means?
Wait, KGB, you need to be in uniform. Go ahead.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, fine.
So earlier, KGB and Joan put on, they actually brought in some eye patches, so they're in solidarity.
You mean like this?
Yeah, so in solidarity now, if you're watching Super Talk TV, both of them are wearing eye patches, just like I am. But, the tragedy in all of this is you're actually making fun of me, and that hurts my feelings immensely.
No.
We're not making fun of you.
Listen.
It's solidarity. You didn't hear that?
I heard it, all right. Anyway, so I looked up Shiver Me Timbers real quick.
Uh-huh.
Shiver Me Timbers. What be the tale or query ye wish to share on this fine day, matey?
Okay, you can't say it like that. Give me a pirate accent.
I can't. I'm not. I can barely speak or read today.
Give the people what they want, Dan.
KGB, I think you could probably do it.
I could do it. Wait,
Yeah,
hold on. I got to find the definition first. Shiver me timbers, and then I'll say it right.
What be the tale or query ye wish to share on this fine day, matey?
Yeah, your crew would kill you.
Oh, I'd be walking the plank. I'd be walking the plank, right?
Yeah.
Garg, are we really following this guy?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, as ridiculous as I sounded, I need some audio. As ridiculous as I sounded with Shiver Me Timbers, at least I don't sound like this.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
That's Chuck Schumer.
Oh, my God.
That is Chuck Schumer. Did you hear this audio yesterday?
Didn't he say it 3 times in the same?
I don't know.
Like 2
I know
minutes?
he said it twice. Hold on. He's talking about how people, I think the word that he was looking for was engaged.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Yeah, there's people.
He hasn't seen somebody who was so aroused since a Diddy party he was at.
Didn't he also at one point use the word erection when he meant to say election?
I don't know. Let's listen.
In terms of trying to get this done. So, yes, I think democracy will have an effect, and we are going to keep at it. We're going to keep at it legally. We're going to keep at it legislatively, but we're also going to keep at it in terms of the grassroots. Thank you, everybody.
No, I didn't hear that.
That was a previous.
I just want a journalist to say.
It was a prior thing.
I just want a journalist to say, I'm sorry, did you just say aroused?
Minority Leader Schumer, can you please more specific when you said
people are aroused? I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
I don't know, because we know what was going on in Washington, D.C. in that Senate hearing room. Remember that whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
Do I need to bring that up again about what was going on? And that made everybody look really weird.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
So there you go. That's what Chuck Schumer said.
I am praying that one of his aides goes, you said aroused. To just avoid that word.
Do you know what I wonder?
Hold on, I have more. You want to hear more?
Yeah, go.
The fact is, the House will deliver the article of impeachment to the Senate. The Senate will conduct a trial of the impeachment of Donald Trump. It will be a full trial. It will be a fair trial. But make no mistake, there will be a trial, and when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against the United States.
There you go.
Good God.
He's known for these.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
There you go.
He's
Something's up with him.
Someone needs to check his laptop.
Yeah. Oof. Wouldn't want to be that person.
Do you know what I wonder?
Yeah.
Like when he was saying that, when he was saying people are aroused, I haven't seen people this aroused in a very long time. First of all, it sounds like a personal problem. But I wonder if he realized, did I just say what I think I said? Because anybody, well, not anybody, often me, I will say things that don't come out quite right. Everybody knows it. What did you call it? A Danurism? I have Danurisms all the time.
Not like that.
I probably have. There's a whole hotkey button up there somewhere where you guys keep playing stuff that I have said over the years. So I wonder if he said that and he's thinking, oh crap, I just said.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Like, did he realize that he said it? And then he's like, oh no, why did I just say that? I just got to keep on going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens to me. Like I'll say something, and again, this happens to people where you're going right along, and then you say something, and you're like, did I say what I think I said? So anyway, that's Chuck Schumer. He hasn't seen a lot of people aroused lately. Got anything else on that, Joan? Or should we just probably awkwardly move on?
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm back here cutting audio up.
She's back there thinking about
don't.
No, oh, please don't.
Dan.
No.
I didn't say anything.
Did you want me to Schumer you again?
No.
Because I can.
I've got an eye patch. Leave me alone.
And when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against.
That's just never ever going to get old.
That's going to stand the test of time.
Now, okay, so let's put these on some hotkeys too. So just so we have them.
Oh, I like that idea.
There you go. By the way, going from somebody who makes no sense to somebody who makes a lot of sense.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back. So we're going to
see. He's got a great point. President Trump has a great point. But we got to check traffic real quick. Then we're going to come back to this because I think this is a great thing. 7:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. $7:15, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Weather today, high of 58, rain across Middle Tennessee. Hope you're staying dry. All right, so Donald Trump, and he is going to open Gitmo. I think there's all of 13 people left in this facility. I think it's about 13. It's not a lot. And it can hold, as you just heard Donald Trump say, it can hold, I don't know how many can hold, but it's clearly at least 30,000. But the thing that I like most about what he just said is that we can't trust these nations to keep these bad guys once we send them back to Colombia, once we send them back to Honduras or El Salvador or wherever they go back to, or Venezuela. That's the big one, too. Who's to say they're not going to try to come back in? Who's to say that these folks in these other countries, these crap hole countries that Donald Trump said, who's to say that they won't try to help facilitate them coming back into our country? I mean, I think that is a great point. And so, yeah, you know what? I don't want to support these people any more than you do. But do we throw them in Gitmo and toss away the key?
Detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back. So we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just it's just an unforced error that we even have to be doing this. Now we need Congress to provide full funding for the complete and total restoration of our sovereign borders, as well as financial support to remove record numbers of illegal aliens. Today I'm also...
Yep. So that is Donald Trump. Open up Gitmo. And again, I think that is a great thing. Arrests have been going on all across the country over the last, obviously, week, and the president has said that he wants to ramp up the number of arrests, and it seems like that is happening. Now, we are, of course, keeping an eye on the midair collision, that Black Hawk helicopter colliding with that American Airlines plane. I know that, Joan, you've been keeping folks updated as well, top and bottom of the hour. I just want people to know that we've been covering this in one way or another all morning long. Going to have another full update from me at 7:35, because there's a lot of politicization that's going on with this. So we're going to talk about that. But American Airlines now, Joan, has come out and said they don't know why the Black Hawk helicopter just, flew right into their plane. They just have no idea. Now, earlier, Joan, you and I were talking about, and unfortunately, can I tell you what happens in talk radio? Is we can have a big, in-depth conversation at 6:06 to 6:15 to 6:20. But then somebody at 7:04 that just tunes in doesn't hear that we did an in-depth conversation. So people are reminding me that the skies over Washington, D.C., they're very compact. And you've got a lot of these helicopters that are flying all the time over Washington, D.C.
Right. There's also several military bases. Langley is there in Virginia. You've got Fort Belvoir, which is where I think this helicopter came from. And you've got these helicopters that fly low over the city. Anybody who's ever been to Washington, D.C., they're buzzing around all the time, and they're always at low altitude. Buzzing around. And then there's restricted airspace over the Capitol and the other buildings along the National Mall and the monuments. So it's a puzzle piece all around the National Mall area. So those helicopters generally follow, and so do planes as much as they can, the Potomac River.
Yeah.
Which is where this happened.
Yeah, and now I went ahead and posted this to my X feed at Dan Manda Show. If you want to see the video, you can see it there. And Elon Musk, and I'll get into this more at 7:35, but Elon Musk and others are tweeting out, Xing out, posting that this looks suspicious. Some people are saying that the whole thing looks like it was intentional on behalf of the helicopter, the Black Hawk helicopter. I don't know. As the story goes, and Joan, you're following this just like I am, I don't know what happened, but if you look at the video, it does look like the Black Hawk helicopter T-bones the plane. Doesn't seem to slow down, doesn't seem to try to maneuver, but there's so many things at play here. I mean, you've got maybe the plane, because somebody sent me something about the plane may have been landing on a runway that isn't the usual runway that planes land on. It may have been landing on maybe an alternative runway. There's all kinds of things that could happen. I'm baffled by just, if you're a helicopter pilot, you can't look to your left and see that there's a big old plane coming your way?
So one of the other things that I've heard several times in a couple of different places now, is that when helicopters are flying and they would normally be looking for airplanes, the lights on an airplane, it's very dark. They're seeing the lights in the airplane. But when you're in an urban area, there's a lot of lights on the ground.
Yep.
And it becomes confusing. What did you call it?
Light pollution.
Light pollution becomes confusing to the pilots. Now, this was a training flight. There was a pilot, there was a co-pilot, and one other person flying. And that may be feeding into this notion of it being the fault of the pilot, or the Black Hawk helicopter.
Whatever, yeah.
Well, just that it was a flight, a training flight.
Yeah.
That maybe somebody was flying the plane that wasn't aware.
But if you're
that's
flying
speculation.
here's what I would say. If you're flying a Black Hawk helicopter, this is not your first rodeo.
Yeah.
This might be
clearly.
your first rodeo flying a Black Hawk, but you know how to, generally speaking, fly a helicopter, I would think. So I don't know what happened. People are telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. People are telling me that I'm right on some of the things that I've said. You know, part of what we got to go. 7:22. We'll get into this fully coming up at 7:35 because there is a lot more, including a lot of people on the left politicizing this, believe it or not. Of course, I know you believe it because you know this happens. They're trying to blame Donald Trump. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here, and you know that January can be a time to clean, to purge, and to become healthier. Now, Zero Res can help you do just that. They offer you a healthier way to clean your home, and using Zero Res means that they use cleaning agents that leave your carpet cleaner and healthier than those other carpet cleaning companies. Now, you know when they clean, they use their ZR water technology. They leave no soap. They leave no residue and no harsh chemicals. That's the great thing about Zero Res. Again, I've been a customer for years, and right now they've got a great deal going on. 3 rooms of carpets cleaned for just $99. That's right. And you can celebrate the new year with 25% off of upholstery cleaning. This is my carpet cleaning company. You got to call them as well. Be healthy, stay healthy in 2025 with Zero Res. Restrictions may apply. 615-535-9376. 615-535-9376. Online anytime. ZeroResNashville.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
727, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, more is coming out regarding the Tren de Aragua ringleader, Anderson Zambrano Pacheco, 25 years old. And he was arrested, I think it was a couple of days ago, in a pre-dawn ICE raid. You know what he was trying to do? Apparently he was trying to buy explosives. Yeah, that's an issue. They say this violent criminal wanted for a kidnapping tied to the Aurora, Colorado break-in was hiding across from an elementary school. And so there is no doubt that Donald Trump is cleaning up the streets. Do you know what's amazing? What's amazing to me is that Trump is doing such an incredible job. Oh, there he goes, talking about how Trump is great again. You know what I'm going to say to the haters that are listening right now? Please tell me what Donald Trump is doing wrong with illegal immigration. Please tell me that. Please tell me how you stand beside and behind Joe Biden as he led in all of these gangbangers, all of these murderers and rapists and all these other things. Please tell me how it is that you believe that that is a good thing. Do you know what I would like to know? I would like somebody to explain to me, if you're like a TDS or a Trump derangement syndrome type person, please explain to me your TDS. Like, please tell me, what is your problem at this point? Explain your TDS. Because I don't understand it. Please tell me where President Trump is going wrong right now. Because it seems to me, we can quibble over some things, but it seems to me right now he is doing a lot right. It is 7:30 on WTN.
Good morning. It's now 7:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're at 43 degrees now with some rain in the area, and we're expected to have rain throughout our day today. The forecast is coming up in just a moment. Now, the search continues along the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. now after that collision of a plane and a chopper. But now officials there are no longer expecting to find anyone alive. The latest now from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Brian Clark. Authorities say all 64 people on board an American Airlines regional jet are feared dead after it collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter with 3 people aboard last night as it came into land at Reagan National Airport. ABC contributor Steve Ganyard, a former Marine pilot, says
the Army helicopter contacted the tower and they said, "We're here." And the tower said, "Do you see the regional jet?" And the helicopter said, "We see it and we accept visual separation." What may have happened, they may have seen something else, another helicopter, another aircraft on final, but they believe that they were clear of the regional jet. And for some reason, this Black Hawk helicopter thought they saw their interval, they thought they saw the traffic, and they clearly didn't.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the fuselage of the plane is in 3 pieces, inverted in about waist-deep water in the Potomac River. Recovery operations continue. This is ABC News.
And we'll keep you updated throughout the morning. Now, the state Senate passed an immigration bill yesterday as lawmakers continue that special session called by Governor Bill Lee. The House bill heads to the floor at 9:30 this morning for a vote. And if it's passed, it'll head to the governor's desk for a signature. One thing that this bill did is to create a division in the state's Department of Safety. It's called the Centralized Immigration Enforcement Division. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, talking to Dan Mandis earlier about why that's important.
But the problem in state government and other governments is you have silos. And so when the Trump administration comes in, it may have to talk to 3 or 4 different departments, which becomes very difficult to me, avenues to have to communicate. And so this individual would be the one who is in direct contact with the federal government to be seamless communication. And then they will have the ability to talk to all the departments.
Lawmakers returned to that session this morning. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Jones. 7:32, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Dan Mandis here for the Glock Store. Now, this is my gun store and where I train, and I do need to go more often here in 2025. You do too. Now, you know they've got those private shooting rooms and personal instructors at the Glock Store. Not multiple lanes and some stranger shooting next to you, no. And right now, they've got an exciting 2025 New Year, New Deal just for you. Now, all month long, which means this is going to end tomorrow. You can book a shooting session at shoot270.com. You mention my name, and you get to shoot my gun, a World War II submachine gun. It's called a Sten. This thing is amazing. So you go to shoot270.com, and you make an appointment. You come in, you mention my name, and they're going to haul out that World War II era submachine gun. It is called the Sten. It is the one that I fired, and it is an amazing experience. But, you know, training at the Glock store has been an amazing experience. This is the place where I bought my first gun. This is a place where I learned how to load my first gun. And I got to tell you, it is also the place where I've been going to train for the last couple of years. Now, their training is outstanding. I absolutely recommend the incredible, incomparable shoot270.com, only in Nashville and only at my place to train, the Glock store, minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere, shoot270.com.
Okay, that westbound side of 24 this morning, kind of a mess. We've got debris in the road in Royal Hill, just the left lane open at Bell Road, exit 59. And then the delay that's before that, there's an accident in that delay. Looks like it may be a garbage truck involved in that. Also, the westbound side of 24 in Laverne, a crash reported at Old Hickory Boulevard. And then flipping over to the eastbound side of 24, South Nashville, a crash at Murfreesboro Pike. Crash involving injuries, too, in Royal Hill. That's on Mount View Road at Murfreesboro Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.735 Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Dr. Horn. Now, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you can see that I'm wearing my eye patch. Yes, I started my journey towards clearer vision yesterday, trying to clear out those cataracts. And I got to tell you, I was really nervous going in. With me, they're doing it one eye at a time. So I did my left eye yesterday, going to do my right eye next week. But I was really nervous going in. And Dr. Horn said, it's all going to be just fine. You're not going to have any pain, nothing to worry about. And he was right. You know, my entire life, I've dealt with the hassle of glasses and contacts. And as I've gotten older, my eyesight has been getting worse and worse. I've had issues driving at night, reading small print and halos around lights. And yes, it has been really frustrating. And so, you know, a few weeks ago, I decided that I simply cannot keep living like this. And I did reach out to Dr. Horn and his team at Vision for Life. Now, they've helped thousands of people take control of their vision. Now I am excited to be one of them after discussing lens replacement with Dr. Horn and how the procedure can correct both near and far vision while eliminating cataracts for good. I knew that I had to take the leap, and I did beginning yesterday. Now, stay tuned as I'll be sharing my journey with you every step of the way. If you're dealing with the same struggles, you owe it to yourself to check out Vision for Life and see why they were voted Nashville's best ophthalmologist. Call them today at 615-436-2020, 615-436-2020. You can find them online anytime. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, visionforlife.com.
Aye, matey.
Oh, stop it.
How have you not opened a segment saying, "I matey"?
Yeah.
Welcome to
honestly,
the show.
I don't know why I haven't done that. You know, though somebody, if I go out today Like I always go to Starbucks. If I end up going to Starbucks and anybody asks about my eye patch, I'm going to tell them that I lost my eye in a knife fight.
See, yeah, you have to make it sexy. Absolutely.
I do.
You gotta do this. Well, landlubber, I came from the 7 Seas to get us some of your white chocolate mocha.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. Okay, we can all just stop now.
We haven't even. We barely went.
Yeah,
with
we didn't get started.
We just did the eye patches. We never actually did pirate talk.
The best part of this whole thing, if folks have been watching on Super Talk TV, both KGB and Joan brought in their own eye patches in solidarity.
Hold on, yeah, I got to put it on.
I got mine.
But you know what?
Working. There we go.
My problem that I've had is I can't really see anything, and I've been battling all kinds of issues today because I can't see. So
Nobody can tell, though.
I appreciate everyone's patience. I know because I'm a train wreck like every day. So
yeah, I haven't noticed a difference, to be honest.
yeah. See, that's a backhanded compliment. Whatever. That's all. Do you think Brian Wilson, who's going to be filling in for Chris Hand today, do you think Brian will be wearing an eye patch when he comes on the air today?
Oh, I can share mine with him.
No, he'll just laugh at you.
Yes, he will, but he does that all the time. Joan, would you do me a favor? Throw me a solid and read Elon Musk's tweet regarding the helicopter plane collision. Because I want to use that. It is emblematic of what a lot of people are saying about this collision. We've been reporting this all day this morning. And, I was telling you a number of different things are going on. Number one, people are blaming Donald Trump. Others are saying that this is, this was something that was a deliberate act and blaming Donald Trump. And I got to tell you that the more you hear from the anti-Trumpers, the Trump derangement syndrome people out there, and I'm going to read you some of their tweets or some of their posts on X, you can see that they're just simply deranged. They're now saying, DC fire, breaking news, not really a shock, no survivors in midair collision, and it is now a recovery operation. They said, Joan, I think we talked about this earlier, that a person could not survive more than 15 or 20 minutes in that water because it was absolutely frigid.
Oh, they had just broken up the ice on the water. So, and the temperatures there have been below freezing for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's been windy. It's terrible conditions.
Did you see that
terrible.
They had caught up with a guy who his wife was on the flight.
So sad.
This is really sad. He was waiting for his wife to land. When he got the news at the airport and they caught up to him, they found him.
I'm just praying that somebody's pulling her out of the river right now as we speak. That's all I can pray for. I'm just praying to God.
When was the last time you spoke with her?
She texted me that they were landing in 20 minutes.
So he received the text from his wife, we're landing in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then at some point, he was told that the plane was in the Potomac. Black Hawk helicopter was on a training flight. This is typically a helicopter that is used to transport VIPs. There were 3 people on the plane, or the helicopters we've been reporting. So now the question, of course, is what happened? I posted the video because all of this is on video. And they've got, what would you call those? These are like city cameras that are posted around Washington, D.C., Joan?
Yeah, the most common video that we're seeing of the accident, that camera is on the side of the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
And it's not terribly close to where this occurred. So that's why it's so grainy.
It's grainy, and you here's what you can basically see. And I posted it on my X feed at Dan Manda Show, is the plane is coming in, and the Black Hawk helicopter is flying, beeline for the plane. And basically T-bones the plane. That's the only way that I could describe it. I think that is a fair way to describe it. And so that is leading to a lot of speculation. Elon Musk posted this. Joan, what did Elon Musk say?
You know what? I can't find it now. Is it possible
did he tweet it? Did he delete it maybe?
It's possible that maybe I fell for, one of those weird accounts that look like it's Elon Musk and it's not.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump said this, The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night, the president said. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? President wrapping up saying this is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. So again, the question is, how did the helicopter not see the plane? So this is the recording, and this is the air traffic control, and they're speaking to the pilot of the helicopter. So what he's saying, and I played it twice there so you could hear it. That is the tower saying, Pat 2, which is the helicopter, do you have the CRJ, that's the plane, in sight? So then seconds later, the controller said, Pat 25 passed behind the CRJ, telling the helicopter to go behind the plane. And so let me play it one more time. So he's telling him to pass behind the plane. But the helicopter doesn't. And then a few seconds later, you can hear in the audio, this is all over the place this morning, you can hear in the audio other air traffic controllers reacting as the mic is open to the crash as they saw it happen. Did you hear that? Somebody said, ooh, and somebody else said, oh, my, knowing that they're going to say, oh, my gosh. So I'm going to play that one more time. It's horrifying and tragic. And now we have 64 people, Joan, on the airplane, presumed dead. And
it was 64 people, I think, altogether.
Altogether, okay.
I'm seeing different counts.
Yeah, we know how that happens.
At this point, they've recovered 28 bodies, and they just don't expect to find anyone else alive.
So there's a number of things. Number one is, again, the helicopter was not stopping. I mean, it just didn't. You heard the air traffic controllers tell them, go behind the airplane. There wasn't even an attempt to do that. All of this happened in mere seconds. But number one, there's such a thing, and I talked about this in the 5 o'clock hour, there's such a thing as wake turbulence. And so if you're flying in a plane, right, and you know anything about flying, you know that there's turbulent air behind an airplane. And so part of the question is, well, even if that Black Hawk had gone behind the plane, it would have to have gone like 3 or 4 miles behind the plane because of that wake turbulence. Now, I talked about this earlier, and if you Google it, if you do a little bit of research, they do say that, yes, Black Hawk helicopters can be susceptible to wake turbulence. Other people will tell you, no, they aren't because of the way that they're built. I don't know. Here's what I know, is that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. There are people out there saying that there's something sinister here going on. I don't know. You don't know. President Trump doesn't know. Nobody knows. And until they figure out with this investigation what actually happened, we just have to wait and see where the investigation brings us. I mean, that's the bottom line. But one thing that is really terrible is how people on the left are politicizing this. And I'm going to tell you how they're politicizing it. And if they want to politicize it, I can do it too. Straight ahead, 746. Time to check the roads on WTN. Weather today, a high of 58. Right now, 42 degrees, and it's going to be raining all day long. Thanks for listening to Nashville's Morning News. So you got people, immediately, the plane had just gone down. And you got people on the left politicizing this. Phil Williams from Channel 5 posted this. He said, Trump's dangerous freeze of air traffic control hiring. And this is an article that has been going around. And so, again, Phil over there at Channel 5 did post this, and the article is titled, Trump's Dangerous Freeze of Air Traffic Control Hiring. Now, it's a whole long article, and it talks about how, remember when Trump froze hiring at the federal level? Well, it clearly states, and anybody that does a modicum of research knows, Phil, that actually did not apply to anyone that works in like safety, right? So safety positions. Clearly, air traffic controllers, they're part of the safety position. So the hiring freeze did not apply to air traffic controllers. It only applies to positions not related to safety. That is part of the executive order. And so part of that is just this knee-jerk reaction from folks. And it does drive me nuts because you have people that are good journalists and they're jumping to conclusions and they're tweeting out things or posting things that, quite frankly, they shouldn't. Here's another tweet from another post from Phil Williams. President Trump offered unprecedented buyouts to all federal employees at a time when studies show the FAA does not have enough air traffic controllers to keep us safe. More people will likely die. And he posted that with, I think it was a video of the crash. Well, that is incredibly divisive and incredibly cold. Because let's all be honest, the unprecedented buyouts, that doesn't affect what happened last night. And so people are just using this with their Trump derangement syndrome. They're just piling on. And this is a tragedy. This is a massive tragedy. Now, yeah, Donald Trump, he did offer these buyouts to all federal employees. That much is correct. But to try to tie this to last night's tragedy, I think journalists who are considered very good, and I believe that Phil Williams is good, making mistakes. He's letting his Trump derangement syndrome, which I believe that he has, I'm sorry to say, because I like Phil. I've had him on in the studio here for an hour. And so we're seeing with some of these folks, I hope this doesn't happen to Phil, but I mean, when you are making knee-jerk mistakes, and he deleted the post, by the way, and he basically said, well, I deleted the post because some people, thought that I was blaming Donald Trump. Well, that's because it sounds like you were, man. And I'm not going after Phil Williams from Channel 5. I think he's very good. I have the utmost respect for him. I'm not mad. I'm just a little disappointed. And I don't want what happened to so many other journalists out there across America and, frankly, the world who have lost their credibility because of their Trump derangement syndrome. I don't want that to happen to Phil Williams. Some people say it already has. I talked about this earlier. And I had all these people saying, oh, my gosh, you respect that partisan hack. I save the partisan hacks. I save that phrase for somebody like Jim Acosta. Phil has a long history in this town of going after both Republicans and Democrats. But it does seem like lately he has been far more focused on the right, on Donald Trump, on conservatives. Now, Phil will tell you, because I asked him about this, and he'll tell you that that's because it's the Republicans that have all the power in this state. Well, that's fine, but how do you explain that initial tweet? President Trump offered unprecedented buyouts to all federal employees at a time when studies show the FAA does not have enough air traffic controllers to keep us safe. Many more people will die. I mean, that sounds very callous. And then again, sending out this other thing, and I know I'm running late, but I want to make sure I get all this in. Sending out that other article, Trump's dangerous freeze of air traffic control hiring. That didn't apply to air traffic controllers. Phil also tweeted that out. And so the more that we see people politicizing this, I mean, this is happening all across social media. But if you want to go ahead and start talking about politicizing, I can do that too. You want to blame Donald Trump? I can blame Joe Biden all day long. Because you know about the DEI that has been going on, of course, in the FAA. New York Times did a big, long article on it back in 2023. Back in 2023, attorneys general from 11 states implored the Biden administration to stop using DEI as a basis for hiring. Remember that whole thing? Their priorities were not meritocracy. Their priorities were DEI. It had nothing to do with hiring the best and the brightest. It had more to do with their 5-year strategic plan to diversify its workforce and hire candidates who reflect the demographics of the U.S. labor force, putting the safety of more than 2.9 million airline passengers in jeopardy. In 2023, August of 2023, New York Times reported that the number of near collisions between aircraft was twice as high as it had been a decade earlier. And in November of 2023, the National Airspace System Safety Review Team issued a report that found that there were 1,002 fewer fully certified air traffic controllers in August of 2023 than in August of 2012. Despite increasing complexity of operations. Yet you have the Biden administration and Democrats that were intensely focused on DEI. Remember this headline? We told you about this way back when. FAA launches recruitment campaign for workers with severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and physical issues to hit their woke DEI targets. Some of this goes all the way back to Obama. So here's the deal, friends. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. Phil Williams has no frickin' clue as to what happened. But here's what I do know is that both sides can politicize this. And certainly there's a very strong case to be made for the ongoing politicization of the FAA, who is over the air traffic controllers. I mean, that is something that we've been talking about for a long time, and that is a very legit concern. It really is. But I don't know if that is what led to this. We won't know until the investigation is complete, and unfortunately, we may never know. People are saying, well, what about the air traffic controller? Was he someone who was a DEI hire? I don't know. It's way too early to tell. And by the way, just because someone might be, black or Hispanic or whatever, doesn't mean that they're not qualified for the job. That's the other thing that we all have to keep in mind. So there's a lot of layers to this. And I'm just saying that politicization, if people on the left want to do it, people on the right can certainly do it as well. I think the people on the right have a lot of very legit questions to ask about how the FAA has been run over the last 4 years. 7:56 on Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mandis here for Brentwood Jewelry, a great local company that has been giving back for over 50 years. The Imamali family is full of heroes. They own Brentwood Jewelry, and the family patriarch, Salem, served in special forces, and his sons serve as local firefighters. Now, again, this is a great American company. Now, part of that giving back is giving you great deals on all things jewelry, from watches to earrings and necklaces and definitely engagement rings. They'll help you find the perfect ring within your budget. And if you can't find what you want, they'll custom design a ring for you. Now, as far as those amazing watches go, those Rolex watches are amazing. Pre-owned or new, Brentwood Jewelry is Nashville's premier timepiece dealer. So find them online, BrentwoodJewelry.com. Check them out today at 7012 Church Street East, located in the heart of Brentwood, just off Franklin Road. Exceptional style, exceptional deals every day for over 50 years. BrentwoodJewelry.com. 7:59, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening. 37:57. Can't even listen to you right now. Lost respect for you. Stop making excuses for Phil Williams. You're an idiot to respect Phil Williams. His actions were clear. Stop making. I wasn't making excuses for Phil Williams at all.
Wow, harsh.
I have said ad nauseum over the last 11 years, he's done a lot of great reporting. But I'm also going to tell you, I think dude is losing his perspective. I think that his Trump derangement syndrome, and no other way to say it, I think his Trump derangement syndrome is leading him to make knee-jerk reactions and posting things that, quite frankly, he shouldn't post. I think that is what he's doing, as, in my opinion, he very cold-heartedly politicized what happened in Washington, D.C. last night. It is 8 o'clock on Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
It is 8 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Yeah, we've got 43 degrees and overcast skies. In fact, it is raining in some parts of the area, and we're expecting rain all day long. The full forecast is still to come here. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the investigation of that deadly midair collision of an American Airlines plane and an Army Black Hawk helicopter. The Army and the FAA will assist in that investigation. We get more on all of it now from ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. A gruesome scene along the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. after last night's deadly midair collision between an American Airlines regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter. ABC's Karen Travers is in Washington with more.
All of the passengers aboard the American Airlines jet that collided with an Army helicopter last night over the Potomac River near Washington are feared dead. Officials say the effort now has shifted from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. John Donnelly, chief of the District of Columbia Fire and EMS Department.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident. And we have recovered 27 people from the plane and 1 from the helicopter.
Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Officials say the plane's fuselage is sitting in the river in 3 different sections. The jet was on approach for landing when the crash happened. The chopper pilot had told the tower minutes before the collision the plane was in its sights. This is ABC News.
Now, President Donald Trump posting on social media overnight, this is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. When asked about Trump's comments, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told reporters to back up what the president said. What I've seen so far, do I think this was preventable? Absolutely. Other news, it's back to work for the final day of the special session of the Tennessee State Legislature. The Senate has passed an immigration bill and disaster relief for Hurricane Helene victims in East Tennessee. They'll need approval of the House, too. And the governor's proposed school choice program has yet to be voted on by either chamber. The proceedings were disrupted for a short time by protesters who were carried off by state troopers. House Speaker Cameron Sexton tells Dan Mandis who those protesters are.
The same 3, they're all Justin Jones's people. I think he pays them to come down there. And they disrupt. And the problem with the committee is even the Highway Patrol came in before they were removed and said, hey, we just need y'all to quiet down if you can. You know, you need to be here to watch and observe. You're not here to be a participant. And they told THP no.
A final vote in the House on the immigration bill is set for today, along with House and Senate votes on those school vouchers. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Futures here are looking mixed. We've got the Dow futures down 72, but the NASDAQ futures gaining 121. S&P futures, they're up 17 points. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Well, let's see. We've got a crash on 24, the westbound lanes at Old Hickory Boulevard. That one is on the right shoulder, which is blocked off. It is a tractor-trailer cab. No big issues around that one. Rural Hill 24 westbound at Bell Road, exit 59. They're still working a crash there that has the right shoulder blocked. Franklin, Mac Hatcher westbound at Franklin Road, an accident reported. And we have another one in Priest Lake on Smith Springs Road at Rural Hill Road. And then also a crash in Creef Hill on Harding Place at Trailsdale Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.807. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends, along with KGB, Joan Jones.
Should we don our
Dan
gear
Mandis.
this morning?
No.
Yeah, no, we should. Here we go. There it is.
Everybody's wearing their eye
Joan, you got to
patches.
give me the signal.
You know what the great
I'm
thing?
sorry, the bat signal.
You know what the great thing is, though,
pirate
is
signal.
for you folks listening on the radio, Joan and KGB have put on their honorary eye patches in my honor.
Yeah.
Yariki matey.
You know what's clear though is that my eye patch isn't scaring anyone.
I can feel your anger.
I mean, good Lord, people on the super text line. So I can't win for losing today.
I don't think you're a Sith
So
Lord.
somebody said, I've been called a lot worse. Somebody said,
That's not the point.
Dan, you do the same things that Phil Williams is doing. You politicize everything. I'm a talk show host. And that's kind of what we do, is we talk about politics. A journalist, an investigative journalist like Phil at Channel 5, he is supposed to be right down the line. He's supposed to be, not left, not right, middle of the line, equal opportunity investigator. And I have received so much
I can feel your anger.
hate just because I said that Phil's a great journalist.
Can't you find any pirate hate?
Embrace the power of the dark side.
Sure.
I can feel your anger.
And so and here's the thing, and you can hate me or whatever if you know what's so interesting about this whole thing is that I literally spent 2 monologues today in the 6 o'clock and then at the end of the 7 talking about how, I believe that, Phil over there, Channel 5, who has been on this show before, I think that he is giving in to his TDS. I do. And I think that, unfortunately, he's going to start making mistakes. He had to pull down one of the tweets or one of the posts that he made on X last night. I guess you said that KGB, did you say that he posted that where he was talking about how more people were going to die because Donald Trump offered buyouts to all federal employees? That was a little bit after the
It
plane
was
crash.
very quick. It was probably like, I want to, let's see.
And he pulled it down.
It was posted at 10:43 p.m., so a couple hours fresh. It was still fresh.
Oh, very fresh. And then he pulled it down, and he did explain. People thought that I was politicizing it or whatever, and so that's fine. But I can't win for losing because I very nicely said I think Phil is giving in to his TDS. And man, the super text line is just.
I can feel your anger.
So my eye patch clearly is not scaring people on the super text line.
I just noticed something about his profile. Phil Williams' profile on Twitter, on X, says, defending democracy, confronting hate. Those are the words that are used by people on the left.
Oh, that's Jim Acosta.
Oh, yeah,
That
exactly.
and okay, defending democracy and confronting hate. Those are almost like, at this point, buzzwords.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
They are.
Yeah. So whatever.
I mean, it just tells you a lot when you read somebody's profile.
Yeah.
It sets you up for what you're about to explore on their timeline.
Well, yeah, because they're always talking about, oh my God, Donald Trump, he's a threat to democracy. And then the left, we're defending democracy, right? So ultimately, as we all now know, and now people are going after us about ABC. Stand by on that. So now we have, people saying that it's up to them to defend democracy when we find out that over the past 4 years, we have had democracy that has been threatened by people like Joe Biden and the Democrats on the left with all of their lawfare. And so, I mean, trying to kick Donald Trump off the ballot in all of those different states, trying to take him out through all of the investigations. I mean, I could go on, but I mean, who wants to go backwards? Be honest with you. And so to me, you're right, Joan. Those are like buzzwords. Anybody who says that they are defending democracy, at least to me, I think those are buzzwords for we hate Donald Trump. That we've got Trump derangement syndrome. Because that's the buzz phrase of MSNBC. That's the buzz phrase of CNN. And when you see all those people on CNN, those 5, 6, 7 people panels on CNN, and all of them are bashing Donald Trump, they'll say that they're doing it in the name of defending democracy.
Absolutely.
But in reality, they are destroying democracy because of what they tried to do to Donald Trump, not to mention the fact that they lied to us for years about any number of things, including, of course, the border being secure. It's all just a bunch of BS. So if you're out there and you've got part of your Twitter handle or X, whatever, is defending a democracy, well, how about defending the truth? If you're a journalist, you should be defending the truth. And I would like to know what truth people who say that they're defending democracy, I would like to know what truth they're actually defending. Because there's been a lot of lies that have been told the last 4 years from that side of the aisle. So how about instead of defending democracy, and I'm air quoting, how about instead of defending democracy, how about you just go out and you print the truth? How about that? Because it looks like democracy won in the end, because Donald Trump won, despite all of the lawfare that all of these democracy defenders threw at him. He won. And they just can't get over it. They are still ticked off. They're not going to stop.
Here's another post from Phil Williams. He posted this 23 hours ago. He reposted somebody else's post, and Phil Williams commented, and guess who he's talking about? Rooting for the dictator that he and other Christian nationalists have called for, a president who answers to no one. I mean, it's
Really?
indisputable. Yeah.
Can somebody, okay, well, now I'm pissed off because a real journalist, and he purports to be a real journalist, if he is a real journalist, he should not be showing political bias in either direction. Am I wrong on that or am I right on that?
No, you're right.
It's been years since I've been a journalist. But if I was, I would be looking for the truth and not calling the president of the United States, who, by the way, millions of people in this state voted for. So I just don't know what the end game is for somebody like Phil Williams. Read that one more time, Joan, if you would.
Sure.
Calling President Trump a dictator?
Rooting for the dictator that he and other Christian nationalists have called for, a president who answers to no one. Yeah. And it's in response to...
That doesn't sound like unbiased to me. You're supposed to be unbiased.
Somebody had posted the Trump administration's response to rogue judges attempting to thwart its lawful actions will be the single biggest litmus test for whether the administration succeeds. Charles Haywood responded, "This is exactly right. Sovereign is he who decides the state of exception, and Trump had better establish fast that he is sovereign over the executive branch." And that's when Phil Williams had posted what he posted.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I mean, listen, I don't tell anybody how to do their job. And if Channel 5 wants to have an investigative journalist who is clearly biased, then that's on them. And some, whiny morning show talk show host on WTN is not going to get anybody to change their mind. But I think that just, again, as a guy who I guess was a fan of Phil Williams, I don't know what happened. What happens to these folks? Like, you can be anti-Trump, but if you want to be open about it, then just be open that you're no longer an unbiased journalist. You're a biased journalist, which means that you're not a journalist. Then you're a narrative peddler, right? I mean, I think I'm going down the right road.
But you know what? I watch a lot of the local news.
Yeah.
I can't name a channel here that doesn't fully embrace one side of the argument and only one side of the argument.
Kevin says, we tried to tell you, Dan.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of I told you so's.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, bust your bubble.
Thank you for reading that, Joan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm scrolling down his Twitter, just seeing if there's any change of, if he doesn't talk about Trump. He talks about Trump, I would say 98% of his tweets. It's
okay.
It's unfortunate, I guess.
Another one bites the dust.
Journalists, I just feel like they just can't get off the Trump train. They can't bring in a new topic. It has to be something negative about Trump now. That's just
well,
the
and
world we live in.
even with this whole obsession that he's got over white nationalists, I haven't seen them, but I would assume that part of that narrative is directed at Trump. I would assume, and I think that there's a lot of folks. I would like to see Phil do an expose on Tren de Aragua, MS-13 here in Tennessee. That's what I would love to see, because I think that they are a major threat. And you know what? Maybe he will at some point. But let's see. Statman, thank you for waking up to the fact that Phil Williams is a lefty apologist. Phil Williams is Tennessee's Jim Acosta. I'm not going to, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go that far yet, but whatever. I don't even know why. Why are we giving this so much airtime? Joan? KGB?
Yeah. Stop it.
It's kind of your fault.
Yeah,
Is
right?
it my fault?
You keep going back to it.
It's the liberal virus. Yeah.
It seems that it's kind of spread. Like it started in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And it leaked all over the country.
Yeah.
It just leaked.
Well, it's too bad. Now I'm looking at my private my texts on my phone. I'm hearing from people that I haven't heard from in forever. So anyway, there you go. Man, it's kind of a sad day.
Yeah.
It's a sad day.
Sorry.
Listen, it's okay. You know what? Maybe I am not afraid to admit that I'm wrong. And I just think that it's been probably a more recent debate. I had Phil on like a year ago. Something happened, and I don't know what it is. A lot of good journalists. Keith Olbermann is another one. We talked about him earlier, right?
He is honest. No, he's been a crazy lefty since Bush, but he was very harsh on Bush. But then when it comes to Trump, he becomes an awful human being. Keith Olbermann is
that's what
is
it is.
a
That's
cruel
what
person.
with Trump derangement syndrome. It's like people do. They become awful human beings.
Yeah, but Keith is another level of cruel. Someone that doesn't agree with him, even in the slightest.
Right.
He goes off, curses at them, calls them names, wants them arrested. You name it.
Wow.
I've lost 2 family members, a friend, and I don't know. I haven't lost any listeners, I don't think. But I mean, to Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome, to be honest with you, I think it actually helps listenership to all of us, because those hate listeners, they always listen, and
I can feel your anger.
They always text in 615-737-9986.
Lost my BFF.
You did?
From high school. Mm-hmm.
Did you really?
Yeah.
We should do a Joan origin story. You want to talk about that at 35? Because I am way late.
Yeah, sure.
I'll tell you, my KGB, you lose anyone because of TDS?
I've managed to keep friends through this.
Attaboy.
There you go.
I can't say the same thing. I've lost 2 family members, only one of which I can talk about.
I'll tell a story of how I've kept them, though.
All right. You want to do that at 8:35?
I'll tell about how I managed to keep them, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll all do that at 8:35. By the way, Brian Wilson, if you're listening, Brian asked if he wants to be joining us at 8:35. Yeah, let's talk to Brian Wilson as well. So we'll talk about all that and so much more. 8:21. By the way, I'm way late. Blame the eye patch. I'm on. Listen, Joan.
Yeah.
And KGB and all the important people that I hope are not listening. It's the eye patch.
Of course.
Listen, I'm on pirate time today. That's what it is.
You've been walking too many planks.
You know what? I want to say something, and I can't because I would just get in so much trouble. Going to move on. 8:21 on Super Talk.
But we like it when you get in trouble.
Yeah, you do, because you guys want me to get suspended so that you guys can just have a fun day.
Oh, we'll have a party.
A fun day.
Party.
I'm bringing pizza.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Any pizza places open at 3 a.m.?
I don't know, whatever. Anyway, here we go. Every night at homework time, I thank the Lord for Xfinity Internet. Now, we can stay connected with Wi-Fi coverage that delivers the speed we need, and you can too. Now, over the holidays, I did a ton of fill-in nationally and across the country, and I can rely on Xfinity for my rock-solid internet that I use to do all of those shows. Now, homework and our jobs don't wait for the internet to work. You need a reliable connection even when everyone is online and working. I do rely on Xfinity. Now, if there are issues, Xfinity has 24/7 customer service here for you whenever you need it and in-home Wi-Fi support. And if you're on the go, you can stay connected with over 20 million secure Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots nationwide. So get the best Wi-Fi for your life, whether it's doing homework with the kids or work for the paycheck. Rock-solid internet is only a phone call away with Xfinity. To get started, call 1-800-XFINITY, online xfinity.com, or drop into an Xfinity store today for more details. 828, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What was that song? Was it Winning by Santana? You guys remember that song? Jody, remember that song?
What is it?
Winning by Santana. I'm winning. I want to use that as like the Trump theme song because it's like, but I'm not going to. You know why?
Why?
Because the damn lawyers.
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
there's
already a theme song for Trump.
Is there?
YMCA.
No, but winning because Trump is always winning. It seems like every day there's another victory, but the lawyers won't let me do it. So here's the deal. Every time I think about or I talk about a Trump win, just in your mind,
play it. Not